Hey guys, welcome to the show, and this week, doing an interview, and Lord knows I have done an interview in a long, long time. Now, the person that's joining me here this week, I've known this person for quite a long time. We've been in discussions for a while, and let's just say I'm getting one step closer to attending a certain wrestling promotion, which we'll talk about in a minute. So please join me in welcoming at this time Dr. Lawrence Zirconium.
Thank you. I know it's your pleasure to finally have me aboard your awesome show. Like I said, I've been watching since the MySpace days. And finally you have the intelligence of having me on here. It's definitely your pleasure.
Oh, well, it's been over 300 shows of this podcast and all those years of MySpace, so, but yeah, we're here because we're going to talk about a big event that is taking place for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators promotion, otherwise known as DOG, and they're having an event 1 week from this Saturday night, November the 18th, at the Alms Center in Bridgeton, New Jersey. And this is a pretty stacked card, and I'll get into the card in a little bit, but for those who don't know about DOG, because I keep my eye on the promotion, why don't you tell everybody about this promotion?
Well, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators has been around since 2010. It's been my solo promotion. I've been partners with other pup companies in the past, but DOG is my own baby, or my own puppy, I guess is a little more accurate.
Yeah.
And it's something I've been involved with for some time. As you may remember, I was a formerly member of the National Wrestling Alliance. We've had many big NWA big moments in the National Wrestling Alliance happening on a DOG card. The NWA North American Championship was defended. The National Championship was defended in a DOG sanctioned event. In fact, changed hands. The Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Championship was defended all throughout the National Wrestling Alliance. 2 times the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship has been on our card. We've had the NWA Continental Championship, NWA Smoky Mountain Championship, NWA Mountain State Championship, and of course, the big one, changed hands on a show a few Novembers ago, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. A new champion was crowned in the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators event. Since then, we are no longer members of the NWA. We joined the World Wrestling Grand Prix, WWGP. We are the premier member, the starship, the mothership, whatever you want to call it, of the WWGP. And we're going to have a nice, awesome event with our WWGP World Wrestling Grand Prix sister promotion, IWA Vintage, coming up on November 18th at the Alms Center in Bridgeton, New Jersey.
All right. And I will say this. I do remember when you were a part of the NWA, and that was a time where I thought you guys were one of, if not the top promotion representing the NWA at the time. So to see it come full circle is really fantastic to see. We have 8 matches on this card, and this is very special because you guys are bringing in someone who a lot of us know, being, I guess we could say historians of wrestling, and J.J. Dillon will be in attendance on November 18th.
Yes, the manager of excellence, legendary manager of the Four Horsemen, WWE Hall of Famer, NWA legend, Mr. James J. Dillon, will be at the event. To give you a little backstory, at our last big event, the tag team champions of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, the Old School Empire, Patch and Vinny the Fixer, with their diabolical manager, Gio Frost in the corner, they kind of appropriated the Dog Tag Team Championship against former champions, the Down Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Gio, I guess, with the assist, other than hockey terms, he helped the Old School Empire leave that show, that event, with the Dog Tag Team Championships. So this time the Down Boys decided to fight fire with fire, to play a little dirty and bring in some expert on the rule-breaking ways to kind of even the situation into their own terms. So the Down Boys now have James J. Dillon to counteract Geo Frost in his Dog Tag Team Championship extravaganza.
And as we know, James J. Dillon has led many teams to tag team titles, either it be the World Tag Team titles or other regional championships as well. Now, one match that I saw on the card that caught my attention, and I'll mention why I caught this attention in a minute, is a match between Breaker Morant and Sal Sincere. And I find this to be an interesting match because, Sal Sincere used to be in WWF many, many years ago. He's been traveling around the wrestling scene for a long time. And so is Breaker Morant. Not as well known as Sal, but he has been traveling around, for quite a while. How did that match come together?
Well, yeah, Sal Sincere is a former WWE, WWF superstar. He's also wrestled for WCW. He's wrestled for ECW, where he held the tag team championship with Tommy Dreamer. He's a former NWA National Heavyweight Champion. He's wrestled all over, but he's from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Breaker Morant has held regional gold throughout the Northeast and a little bit into the South. He's wrestled, the biggest names in professional wrestling, and he's only lost one match in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and that's against our champion, Dirty Money. He's also from Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, they just like to talk smack on each other. They've been bad-mouthing each other for as far back as I can remember, but nobody ever put them in the ring against each other to settle that score, that little rivalry they've been having, that South Philly beef. I think it might be because one might like Pat's, one might like Gino's. Personally, I'm a Tony Luke guy myself. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why they just don't like each other. But they don't. Like I said, they've been talking smack on each other for quite some time. This is kind of a grudge match. Even though they've never wrestled each other, this is kind of a match where, they want to beat each other up. They want to settle. They want to see who's better. This is kind of like the King of South Philadelphia in a way. Sal Sincere versus Breaker Morant, first-time matchup.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear, how this one comes out, considering the animosity between the two. Is there a match, Lawrence, that you are looking forward to in particular?
I like all the matches, both the ones sanctioned by Dog and by IWA Vintage, but we also have a sister promotion called Valkyrie, mm-hmm. and the current women's champion, Casey Carlisle, the true classic women wrestler. She is defending that Women's Valkyrie Championship against Ring of Honor superstar Bonesaw Jesse Brooks, the Woman of Honor himself. They have wrestled before, and I think it's about as close of a matchup as possible. You had to score it. I think Casey, because she came out as victor, came out as 50.5, while Jesse Brooks came out 49.5 if it was a scoring, but it was about as close of a matchup as could be. I think it just happened to be whoever luckier that night. Mm-hmm. It's one of the matches that I almost think there's going to be a new champion. I can't say. I don't know. I mean, both are very good. Casey Carlisle kind of reminds me a little bit of Fabulous Moolah, a little bit of Sherry Martel. Jesse Brooks is kind of like a female Brock Lesnar, and they're just going to beat each other senseless. Casey, I think, has big match experience, a little bit more, being a former NWA World Women's Champion, and she's defended that Valkyrie Women's Championship against some of the best. I mean, she has defeated Jesse Brooks in the past. She's defeated Sumi Sakai, Kimberly, who's now wrestling as
Abby
NXT. Abby Lace in NXT. She's wrestled former WCW superstar. What was her name? She wrestled. I can't think of her name at the moment. She was wrestling for WCW. I just had it before I went to say, and it's driving me nuts.
It's all right.
What was that?
It's all right.
Yeah, I blame the chair shots and all my hours of work being a good doctor.
Yeah.
But she's defended against the top women wrestlers around this country, and she's between being the NWA World Champion, the Valkyrie's champion, and I think 11 current championships she holds throughout the United States. She's wrestled in who's who in professional wrestling. Former WWE Divas champions, former WWE Women's champions, former NWA Women's champions, wrestled against the top wrestlers in the world. She even has a current win over the current NWA World Women's Champion, Jazz. So, obviously, I think the big match experience is in Case Carlisle's favor, but again, it was so close last time. I don't want to call a winner. I just think it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, and I've seen both women wrestle. I've seen Carlisle wrestle live down here in Maryland before, and she definitely has the experience. And then Jessie Brooks is such a tough woman.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting match. I don't want to ignore the rest of the card because there are some good matches. And I'll go through them, and you could give us a little information on each of them. We'll start at the top of the card with LJ Cruz against Adam Chandler.
Adam Chandler is a young, up-and-coming wrestler, starting to make his name in the area. LJ Cruz is a wrestler who's been around for a little bit. He's wrestled for IWA Vintage before. Very big following in the area that we're going to be. And it's going to be a great scientific matchup. Two guys who are more on the good guy side, let's just say. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a nice scientific matchup. It's going to be something nice to see. You don't see that a lot of times. There's usually some kind of animosity. These two are just very friendly, good, popular wrestlers looking just to see who's better. And something that's going to be different than every other match on the card because, again, there's no true animosity. There's no true hatred or anger, or they're not on opposite sides of the locker room. They're two guys that are just going to prove that they have a great matchup. And truthfully, sometimes wrestling is what's on the marquee and what people truly are here to pay to see. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Tag team action will take place as 410 Massive will take on the One Mean Team of Justin Pusser and Brian Johnson.
The 410 Massive, they're from down south. It's not a team you see up north, and that's one of the things that both IWA Vintage and Dog like to do. We like to bring wrestlers you've never heard of. I'm tired of seeing wrestling events with the same people on every show and the same matchups ad nauseum. This time you get to see a match that's never happened before. One Mean Team versus 410 Massive. And it's going to be great. One Mean Team recently made the Ring of Honor pay-per-view debut. Brian Johnson's been on WWE television. Justin Pusser was trained by Maniac Matt Bourne. Miss Jasmine, she's just one mean lady. So you're going to have an interesting matchup right there between two up-and-coming tag teams that are going to pretty much probably one big challenge for the IWA Vintage Tag Team Championship if they ever choose to have one.
Now, I should ask before we go on, you said that Miss Jasmine is a mean lady. Have you had an altercation with her in the past on multiple occasions?
No, but I've seen some guys who tried to get on the wrong side of them, and she will slap them, she will bite them, she will pull their hair, they put her extended fingernails into their face. She's just kind of nasty. She kind of reminds me of like a honey badger. Huh.
We could make a match, her against my nephews. That would be a very interesting match because they pull my hair sometimes. Not much the biting, but keep that in mind for 2018. A battle of promotions, IWA Vintage Pro against Dog, will feature Problem Child against Killian McMurphy.
Yeah, Killian McMurphy, managed by Destiny. Destiny's been around since the Dennis Carluzzo days. She's a crafty woman. And Killian McMurphy is a young, talented individual that's starting to make a name for himself in the Northeast. Problem Child, again, is more from the area that we're running the show. He's a popular wrestler for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. He's kind of the kid who never grew up. But it all depends, really, because he's got multiple personalities, so you never know exactly which one. There's one that's kind of a freak, one that's kind of dark and moody. There's one that's, like I said, the one that never grew up. Mm-hmm. You're not exactly sure which Problem Child you're going to get. These are one. They're all pretty entertaining.
Should be an interesting match. It's for company pride in that one.
So again, we've both worked well together, both Dog and IWA Vintage. We've helped each other in the past. But we wanted to each have somebody extra on the show. We thought it was a great way to showcase some of the young and up-and-comer in like Kelly McMurphy, or the established, insane, very popular wrestler. And because Problem Child's from the area, I think that will definitely help our local attendance.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like a no-brainer for us.
Yeah. Then we have the IWA Vintage Championship being defended. Mike Orlando, the champion, to defend against CZW star Joe Gacy.
The best way I'm going to describe this match is it kind of reminds me of a rematch between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex.
Ah.
Mike Orlando is the IWA Vintage Championship. He won it over in a match with John Dahmer.
Mm-hmm.
John Dahmer is again a wrestler known from this area. They had a very, very good matchup, and this is the first championship defense for Mike Orlando. They say you're not truly a champion unless you defend it. But Mike Orlando, he's no slouch. I mean, he's been in the ring with wrestlers like Jerry the King Lawler, with Adonis, who used to be Chris Masters.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the ring with the Maestro, which is Stro, whatever you want to call him, from WCW. He's been in there with a lot of the top wrestlers in this country, starting to really, really make a name for himself. I think pretty soon you're going to see him probably in either Impact Wrestling or maybe even the WWE, NXT, or something like that. Joe Gacy, well, he's never lost a match in a WWGP sanctioned event. Doesn't matter if it's IWA, doesn't matter if it's Dog or any of the other WWGP sanctioned promotions. He's undefeated. He's using that undefeated streak to get this match against Mark Orlando. There's a few screws loose, no doubt about that. He's kind of lost his mind and kind of let his evil streak come out. But Joe Gacy versus Mike Orlando is going to be one of those matches you don't want to miss. Again, T-Rex versus I-Rex rematch is the best way to describe what's going to go on in there.
And Joe Gacy is a tough individual, so this is not going to be a walk in the park for the champ.
No, not at all.
And then we have the main event for the World Wrestling Grand Prix title. The champion, William Huckabee, defending the title against Deshaun Pratt.
William Huckabee won that WWGP championship at the Jimmy Clydesdale Memorial Cup tournament. The championship was held up, and it was decided in that match. And since being champion, he's defended it all over the country. They call him the Incredible Huck. And just kind of imagine a mixture of Jimmy Anvil, Neidhart, and Apollo Crews. That's what he is like, and it's going to be interesting to see him take on Deshaun Pratt. Deshaun Pratt has called himself the Prince of Camden. I don't really know why, because it's not my town, but Camden and Bridgeton don't like each other. There's a big rivalry. It's kind of like that big sports rivalry, that big school rivalry, that big town rivalry. Unfortunately, also the big gang rivalry.
Right.
There's just a real disadvantage, a dislike between the two towns. And Deshaun Pratt calls himself the Prince of Camden. And the Prince wants to be royalty, winning the WWGP Championship from William Huckabee. Maybe he'll become the King of Camden after that. But it's going to be a great matchup. Deshaun Prince is a high flyer who's recently bulked up a little bit, put on a little bit of muscle mass. Mm-hmm. And while it hasn't affected his high flying style, I think it's made his strikes more effective. And it's just going to be one of those matchups, a clash of styles, kind of, because while they both can fly, they also have other tools in their wheelhouse to show off. And I think it's going to be one of those matchups that might even steal the show.
Well, it is the main event match, so I would not be surprised if it did steal the show.
I won't say how many or what these wrestlers' names are, but I've literally contacted wrestlers from ECW, WCW, WWE, NWA, TNA, Impact, whatever you want to call it, all the big promotions in the area. Nobody really wanted to wrestle the Incredible Hulk. They're kind of intimidated by him. He's a monster. He's kind of like hit by a freight train, and they just said no. They tried to make excuses saying, oh, I got other shows, or I will be out of town that day, or, oh, the money's just not right, or, I don't think it's the right time, but they'll came up with excuses on why they could not wrestle William Huckabee.
Mm-hmm.
I will give mad props up to Deshaun Pratt, because he not only wanted William Huckabee, he demanded to wrestle William Huckabee. And that takes a lot of guts, because like I said, the Incredible Hulk has been steamrolling for everybody in his way.
That should be quite a main event. For those interested in going to this event, $15 tickets for adults, $10 for kids, and a portion of the proceeds will benefit the court-appointed social advocates for children. So
exactly. If you know kids who have been adopted or foster parents, or foster kids, I mean, this helps them. It gives them clothing. It gives them food. It gives them toys. It tries to make the situation so much easier for them.
Yeah.
And this is a great cause. Not only going to see an excellent night of wrestling action, so great that even you don't want to miss it. I think you really should come up, because it's going to be that good. I guarantee it. In fact, if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back.
Oh, wow.
But that's how confident I am in the promotion. You're going to have such a good time. If you do not like it, I will give you your money back. That's how good I know how much you are going to love this. That's why you should come up and see it.
Wow. Now, I do want to ask, because I remember reading this post once. This was maybe 2 months ago. At the time, you guys were considering expanding out of the New Jersey area, maybe into D.C., Delaware. Has that developed as of late?
I had an inquiry about bringing it to Aberdeen, Maryland.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is. That's north of Baltimore.
Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to have done it, I couldn't seem to get the right person to call me back and stuff like that. I'm still working on it. I would love to do it. Many years ago, I did an event, not myself, but I worked an event at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And I just, for some reason, I have a big thing for the military. I love doing wrestling events for the military. The military crowd gives such great energy.
Yeah.
And the last event that I know was there was kind of subpar. I wanted to do something that gives the military a great event. And I was working really hard on it. I had somebody interested, but I just couldn't seem to get from A to B to C to get it set up. But if you have any connections, maybe in Maryland or somewhere, or D.C., I would love to do it. There was another event I did many, many years ago for a promotion called Zero Underground.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a building called the Thurgood Marshall Center. And it was one of the most fun wrestling events I ever had. It was some of the best atmosphere I've ever been part of at a wrestling event. And something about that building just felt magical.
Yeah.
And I wish I, again, had some connections up there, because that place was just an amazing, packed, beautiful, great building of wrestling action. And while I've known many of the wrestlers who wrestled on the show for some time, it was my first time meeting a lot of those professional wrestlers, including former Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators champion Chance Prophet.
Well, that's a name out of the past.
Yeah, he's the first dog champion, former NWA, two-time NWA national champion. And that's the first time I've seen him in person. Again, I've talked to him back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was always a fan, it was one of those, that was that particular meeting that made me make sure that Chance was part of the very first Dangerous Wrestling Gladiators event. And he went on to win the championship. I
always thought that he should have been an NWA World Champion. Hands down. I will take that to my grave, that he should have been the NWA World Champion.
There was times where it almost came to be, but unfortunately situations didn't quite work out. That's what happens. That's why we have these wrestling matches, so we could just, decide what's going to happen. But he's very talented, a very awesome guy, amazing artist, charismatic. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, he could have been a great champion. He was a great champion for dogs. And hopefully one day, I would love to see him face William Huckabee.
Hey, it could very well happen.
Yeah, him and Huck would be a great match, and maybe he can leave with that WWGP championship around his waist.
Very well. Now, I do have to ask, because we are getting close to the end of the year, and 2018 is right around the corner. What does the future hold for Dog in 2018?
Well, outcome pending. I know we're looking to go back at the Elm Center with IWA and Dog, looking to come back maybe in February, I believe, of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find new buildings. Unfortunately, I don't know how it is in your area, Maryland, but in South Jersey, it's either overpopulated with wrestling promotions, and we are still under the curse of former wrestling promotions going back from the 80s up, who have burned many buildings and have done many a thing where it's hard to get shows and events and stuff into buildings, and the ones you do find are either overpriced or underparked or just not good buildings or something. It's real hard to find that it's such a great place to run.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, unfortunately, because of them canceling an event, won't be doing a school that I used to work in the past. But I'm trying to find some other buildings and looking to run just dog events in my area where I run normally in the Gloucester County, Cumberland County, Camden County areas. And so I'd like to do that again, and I'm trying to get something on that. I also would like to partner with a few other promotions. There are some people we work with well, MAWA, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Alliance,
right.
Old Time Wrestling especially. We've worked in the past with them. Maybe we can continue to do so. I know the board of directors of WWGP would like to talk to both of them about joining the World Wrestling Grand Prix. I know they're more in my area, but we work well together, and I have a lot of respect for both promoters. So I hope that continues. And, of course, I'd like to get the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion and the Dog champion defended in other areas. You know, the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gliders Championship has been defended in 14 states.
Mm.
I'd like to add 15, 16, all the way up to 50 somewhere, maybe hopefully 2018, and get it defended again in other promotions and other states. You know, anybody in Maryland, it's never been defended in Maryland.
We got about 2 or 3 promotions here in Maryland that could probably work out, so remains to be seen.
I know you always kind of had a love for wrestling.
Yes.
Maybe we can work on something where you could be my area promoter and you can run Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators in Maryland.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy, what a dream that would be for me. I'd have to get a license and all that, but yeah, if that ever happened, sign me up.
Well, write me a little bit later. Maybe we can talk to it. Maybe you could be that point man that I need, and we can start doing WWGP Maryland events, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's
because
imagine all the guests you could have on your show, and that way you can easily say you've been to a dog event if it's in your own state, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple places in my mind. So, now I do have to ask for you, the good doctor, what are you going to be doing on the 18th of November while they're in New Jersey?
Well, ironically, people don't see me at my events. I'm not the star.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put any focus on me. There's nothing worse than a wrestling promoter has to put himself out there at the expense of his own company and take a bunch of selfies and hang out with all the wrestlers and make it all about himself. Put himself in 20 interview segments and the commentator and the commissioner and the main event wrestler and everything else. You won't see much of me out there, if at all.
Right.
You probably will see Atticus, but that's because Atticus is kind of like the love child of Ozzy Osbourne and Bill Watts. And if Atticus doesn't like something, he'll just grab a big stick and beat you with it. So he's a different kind of promoter. I mean, again, he doesn't put himself out there as a big part of the show. He's not the egomaniac of some other promoters. But again, if he doesn't like something, he'll just grab a stick and hit you with it.
Yeah.
Or a chair or whatever else he happens to have. Just keep him away from the bathroom sink. But yeah, he's a little nuts. But still, it's going to be a great event. And who knows? If Atticus picks up the stick, you can be there until you witnessed it.
Maybe. Where can Well, first off, where can our listeners follow this great promotion, and where can they follow you on social media?
Well, they can check out Dangerous Journal Wrestling Gladiators. We are on Facebook, Dog Wrestling. We're on our website, www.dogprowrestling.com, and that takes us to all our social medias like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We have a MySpace, but I haven't updated that since I probably last talked to you on MySpace.
I've tried to get onto MySpace, but for some reason it won't let me into my page. So I'm pretty screwed there. So
yeah. But like I said, there's ways. We're also on YouTube, so you can look up Dangerous Journal Wrestling Gladiators or Dog Pro Wrestling on that. Find some stuff we've done on YouTube. That's my one weakness is I need to get more on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Dog's been around for a while. We've had some amazing wrestlers on the cards. How many times have you been to a wrestling promotion and there was some local guys there, but there was not anything of major significance, like anything like that. Dog tries to mix wrestlers from down south and out west and up north and from other countries, and then also tries to bring in the big superstars to have a great wrestling event from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just think of some of the names who have been at a Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators event. And then think about who's already coming. I mean, first of all, we got James J. Dillon and Sal Sincere going to be on this next event.
Yeah.
That's just now. We've had Nunzio, Robbie E., Ricky Reyes, Hardcore Nick Gage, Sanjay Dutt, Manu, a.k.a. Alpha Jr., Gunner, who's now working in TNA, Julio De Niro, Jerry Lynn, Marty Jannetty, Lindsay Dorado, currently 205 Live Superstar, Tony Mamaluca, the FBI, Anthony Nese, currently 205 Live Superstar, Homicide, Matt Stryker, Takeaki Watanabe, Bilvis Wesley, former NWA champion, Cahagas, Thomas Rodman of the Blue World Order, just to name a few of them. And it's, who knows what we're going to be adding. I know we're looking to bring in some legends, we're looking to bring in some new superstars, and some of the wrestlers you've seen on Dog, they started in Dog and now worked their way big up. Tony Lorcan in NXT was a Dog superstar. I know I can think there's probably more that I'm not thinking of. So you're going to see some guys who are working their way up to get into the big time promotion, guys who have been there, and guys of just something incredible. You're going to see them that you're not going to see anywhere else.
All right. Well, Lawrence, thank you for taking the time out. I know you're busy getting this show prepared, you and so many others working behind the scenes. Once again, just want to remind everyone, Saturday, November the 18th, Bridgeton, New Jersey, at the Alms Center. 7:30 p.m. is the bell time. $15 adult admission, $10 child admission. On 1 Martin Luther King Way. Go have some fun, folks, because this is the real deal. Lawrence, thanks for joining me, and hope to have you back on again soon.
All right, loved it. It's been some time, and it's a little past due. Now I just got to get you at a Dog event. I really think you should come up to the joint event on November 18th in Bridgeton, New Jersey. Maybe I'll introduce you to James J. Dillon.
We'll have to wait and see.
All right, I'll see you there.
All right, we'll be right back, and we'll get the show going.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
I heard there was this podcast, about something funny like wrestling and so, and you really care about wrestling, don't you? There are drop kicks and leases all over the board, and then something called the Wrestling Hold. It's a super duper fun podcast about wrestling. That wrestling show. That wrestling show. That wrestling show. That wrestling show. Well, Fro and Bill and maybe a guest or two is here to hold your hand and guide you through a podcast about wrestling. We have a lot of extreme fun, and that's without a gun, because I needed something to rhyme fun with. That wrestling show, that wrestling show, that wrestling show, that wrestling show. Well, sit your behinds gently down and listen to our podcast sound and try to guess this week's Pro question. You win a lot of cool things and also help Bill with his bills. That's a super duper fun competition. That wrestling show. 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 That wrestling show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of That Wrestling Show, the only podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And Fro,
Yes.
I have to be honest with you, and I said this on our Facebook group earlier today. This is probably one of the most loaded episodes of all time, ever.
Yeah, this is going to be a loaded episode, not only because we're going to cover all the things we normally do, but we have a lot of extra things to
Yes.
cover. For example, a 2020 special on TV and a pay-per-view and things like that.
And also, you guys heard in the beginning of the show my interview with Dr. Lawrence Zirconium, and I thank him again for joining me and having a conversation about the upcoming event on November the 18th for Dangerous, I know I'm going to mess it up, Dangerous Allegiance Wrestling Gladiators, or DOG. That's the name of the promotion.
Dog?
DOG.
D-O-G?
D-A-W-G.
Oh, D-A-W. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And they,
what's up, dog?
they got a big event on the 18th, so if you fast forwarded through that, why did you do that? Go all the way back to the beginning. We had quite a good conversation there. And then also, later in the show, this is where Fro, unfortunately, cannot be with us because of where he lives.
Time difference.
Big time difference. Myself and an esteemed panel, we are going to discuss Montreal 20 years later. And Fro, you know what? While I'm thinking of it, I know you weren't a fan when it happened.
No, I wasn't.
When did you first hear about the Montreal Screwjob?
I think I heard about the Montreal Screwjob pretty early in my wrestling career. I mean, with
knowing wrestling and
Right.
not my professional wrestling career. But yeah, I heard about the Montreal Screwjob pretty early up there.
Well, all I'm going to say before we go further is I remember seeing it happen the night it happened.
Oh.
I mean, I was not there, but I remember watching it live when it happened. And
yeah, no, I can't say that. I've seen it later though, and I of course also saw the special where they talked about it.
Yeah, so we will have a big discussion on that and the show itself, because I think that's the one thing that gets looked over is...
Oh yeah, it was a really good card.
There was a show! That's the thing!
Yeah.
There's a show! It's just one thing happens and it's all gone.
Definitely.
Or not gone, but, you know, it takes
over.
Yeah,
it takes, out of
it takes over, basically.
Definitely.
I want to start off with a weird piece of news.
Okay.
I don't know anybody who is in our wrestling community, our friends, that doesn't know this story. But late last week, Sean Diddy Combs, the famous rapper, mogul, whatever you want to call him, who performed at WrestleMania 29, and he did a good job. I'm not gonna lie, he did a good job.
Yeah, one of the best performers on WrestleMania, I would say.
He announced that he was going to change his name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you're wondering, why am I bringing up this? It's because of what his name was.
Mm.
He was going to change his name to Love.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not kidding, folks. He was going to be Brother Love.
That's a stupid thing to do.
However, for those of you who don't know, we already have a Brother Love. And it's
With us, definitely do.
And it's Bruce Pritchard. So, Diddy got a lot of heat about that.
Yeah.
So he said that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to name myself Brother Love. I'm just going to call myself Love. Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, it's fucking stupid.
Wouldn't you think, being a big-time mogul that he is,
right,
that he would have done the and I'm not bashing him, I'm just saying that he would have done the research of the name
before he named himself. Yeah, there's a little thing called Google. It's really hard to find.
That would be like if I came out on this show and said, "Hey guys, I am legally changing my name from Bill Yankovic to the notorious B.I.G."
Yes, definitely.
So, you know.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Competition time?
Yes, let's get into it. This is our last one before our big Survivor Series show next week. And we do have a winner. And it was a very good friend of the show, Dom LaMartina, who got the answer right, who guessed, well, he didn't guess, but he answered the Usos won that Fatal 4-Way elimination match at WrestleMania 30.
Mm-hmm.
So, what show are you going to quiz me on this week?
I thought I would pick a really random one.
Okay.
It's WWE The Bash.
The Bash, okay.
The Bash. Have you heard about it?
I believe I have.
Yeah, it's from June 28, 2009.
Okay.
And it was in Sacramento, California. In the sponsor was Gillette Fusion Power.
That's not
Just,
too bad.
no. But do you know what venue it was?
Ooh, and that's for me?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, and I don't know why it's in my head, but I'm going to guess it. The Arco Arena in Sacramento.
It is the Arco.
Ah, yes!
No, what I want to know is, for the listeners, is to tell me who's on the promotion picture.
Ooh, that's a good one. I would not know that. I wouldn't know that off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. But let's go through the pay-per-view. The dark match was Sheldon Benjamin against R-Truth.
Ooh. I'm going to say R-Truth?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, wow.
Then we have Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, Christian Finlay, and Tommy Dreamer. And this was a champion scramble for the ECW championship.
Champion scramble match.
Yeah. I can't say that I remember that I ever watched a champion scramble match in my entire life.
Oh, well, I can briefly explain to you the process of that.
Right.
So basically it starts with two guys, and every 5 minutes, another person comes in. So it's sort of like the Royal Rumble, minus, 30 people. So there's a 20-minute time limit, and whoever is the quote-unquote champion by the time the 20 minutes is up is the winner.
Right.
So,
well, it was 15 minutes this time. So.
Okay. I want to say Tommy Dreamer?
Tommy Dreamer, that's correct.
Yes!
Jesus, sorry. Then we have a title versus mask match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. And I will actually say this is the only match I remember from this pay-per-view. And it was Chris Jericho against Rey Mysterio.
I remember hearing that was a really good match.
That was a really good match.
Ray won that match.
That's correct.
Because there's no way WWE's going to let him lose his mask. No way.
No.
Not a chance.
No.
Vince was like...
I remember that as one of the best feuds Rey Mysterio had in
in WWE, yes.
Against Chris Jericho.
Yes.
I really loved that.
That was done really well.
It was. Then we have a fantastic match, I'm sure. I don't remember it. It was a no DQ match. It was the Great Khali against Dolph Ziggler. That's why I'm saying it's probably amazing.
That was a 5-star match of the year candidate for that one.
Yes. I'm sure it was.
Khali.
All
right.
Then no, it was Dolph Ziggler.
Really?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I lied. So I believed it myself. Then we have a triple threat match for the Unification WWE Tag Team Championship. And it was the Legacy against the Colonas against Chris Jericho and Edge.
Okay, I think I remember this. For what would happen after.
Sorry, yes.
Jericho and Edge won that match.
But I can't believe that Chris Jericho had 2 matches during...
Hey.
But yeah.
I hope he got extra money for that.
Probably. Sorry.
It's alright.
I just read something funny.
Okay.
Then we have a singles match for the WWE Women's Championship, and it was CM Punk against Jeff Hardy.
Did you say it was for the Women's Championship?
Yeah, I did. It was for the singles match for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure. Like, wait a minute.
No, I read.
You read that wrong? Okay.
Yes. I
Jeff Hardy won that match.
read. Yes.
All right.
Because the match before it was Michelle McCool against Melina, and that was for the WWE Women's Championship.
Oh God. I'm gonna guess McCool won that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did she? Yeah, she won it. Melina was champion at the time.
Mm.
Then it's John Cena against The Miz.
Oh boy. Yeah, but here's the thing though. We're talking about this from 2009.
Yeah.
And how much better those two would have as far as matches go after that.
Oh,
Big
so much
difference.
Their
Cena.
WrestleMania match is one of my favorite WrestleMania matches, actually.
If it wasn't for that BS ending at the end.
Yeah, the bullshit ending is terrible. I hate that ending. I hate The Rock.
But yeah, Cena won that match.
Yep. Then we have a 3 stages of hell match for the WWE Championship. What the fuck was 3 stages of hell match?
Okay, that was
ridiculous.
It's like a 2 out of 3 falls match, but every fall had a stipulation.
Oh, okay.
So like, let's say you and I had a 3 stages of hell match.
Yes.
The first fall could be a regular match, just a regular wrestling match. The second fall could be a steel cage match. And then if we went to a third fall, it could be a ladder match.
Right.
So.
And it was Triple H against Randy Orton.
No, jeez. Now that's like 7 stages of hell right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Who won that match? I want to...
Not the audience, that's for sure.
No, sure. I want to say Randy Orton won that match.
That was Randy Orton, yeah.
Yeah, because Legacy was still around, so... Mm-hmm. Okay.
So once more, the competition is who's on the promotion poster.
Yep. And this is...
FRO.
And this is your last chance to get an entry if you have not won an entry, because after that, that's it. And, of course, the big prize this time around from Fro is he's going to pay for your Patreon subscription, which you two can figure out, whoever the winner is. I'm going to throw in one as well. And it was really popular the last time, so I think I'm going to do it again. I will send somebody a crate from Pro Wrestling Loot. Because it was really popular last time. So that will be my prize. And if we decide to do another prize or two, Fro and I will talk about it. So
yep.
We'll
do you want to guess in chat who it was?
I'll take a guess.
Yeah.
Am I right? No. Okay. Hey, it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
It was worth it. Oh. Okay.
Yep.
Well, for the audience's purposes, I will not say their name.
No.
Notice I did not say his name or her name, just said their name.
Their name.
Their name.
Do you want to talk about TNA?
Yeah, let's do that, because there is a lot to talk about. Because before you get to Bound for Glory, there was a story that broke. What was it? I think it was the day before the pay-per-view, because one of the matches that was supposed to take place was the Red Wedding match between Taya and Rosemary.
Yeah.
That match never happened.
Nope, it got scrapped.
According to Dave Meltzer, and this is who I'm going to take. That's who I'm going to go with on this one.
Yeah.
It was due to circumstances out of their control. Valkyrie wrote on Twitter that it was due to personal reasons. So it has nothing to do with the company. It has nothing to do, with Impact. It was just something came up. I think if I remember right, and I could be wrong, it might have been passport issues, but I'm not really sure. So,
I need to read something for you.
Okay, please
Mike
do.
Johnson. Mike Johnson of PV Insider summarized "Bound for Glory" by writing that Impact has their chance to make a statement, but instead does the same old thing.
Yep.
This was referring to the completely bullshit finish that we're going to talk about. And Jason Powell of ProWrestling.net described Bound for Glory as a poor show with a few redeeming qualities. A new creative regime has made a lousy first impression. Mike McKinnon of Pro Wrestling Torch wrote that Bound for Glory was really, really, really bad.
that almost sounds like when Alex does the chick across the road joke that I got for my birthday. Have I ever told you that joke?
No.
Okay, so I got this birthday card from my sister and her husband. And the card says, "Why did the chicken cross the road?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know the usual answer.
Yeah.
Because, try to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I open the card and it says, "Because it was really, really stupid." So, ever since then, Alex, who is 3 years old, by the way, he takes it and he's like, "It was really, really stupid."
Adam Martin of Wrestle Review wrote that Bound for Glory disappoints on Ottawa and the pacing of the show was really, really bad.
Oh, gosh.
Larry Sinoska 411 radio rated the show as a bad rating of 3.3 out of 10. It got a lot of 3 out of 10. It got a 3 out of 10 from Mike McKinnon as well. And he wrote that all through he wanted the show to be great, highly questionable booking, some bad wrestling, and most flat action with a crowd that died as the night went on.
Oh, jeez. Like, now, were there really deaths in the audience?
No, it wasn't.
Rats.
Nothing was special, nothing was memorable in a good way. This show failed its fans. I've seen this pay-per-view.
Now, did you see it when it happened?
No.
So you didn't get to chat with Velvet Sky. Damn.
No, I did not chat with Velvet Sky. I saw this on Monday.
Okay.
I have no clue why I saw this. But
it doesn't matter.
Trevor Lee defeated Diamond, Xavier, Garcia Jr., Matt Sydal, Pete Williams, and Sanjay Dutt for the X Division Championship. This was maybe the best match of the night.
Okay.
So it was good that it was first, so we could see all of the other shit. Then we saw Alberto Del Rio coming into the ground. That's the horrible booking that we were talking about.
Right.
And he comes and do Alberto Del Rio promo. Then we have Taji Ishimori that defeated Tyson Dux.
Yeah, from the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yes.
So at least he got some exposure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Abyss defeated Grado. That means that Grado must leave the United States.
Even though the match took place in Canada.
Even though the match took place in Canada.
Can I just say one thing real quick and then go on?
Mm-hmm.
this is the sort of the beauty with wrestling is how ridiculous it could be where you have a match with a stipulation like that. It's like that one time on Raw when Miz was U.S. champion and he defended the title against Bret Hart in Canada.
Right.
Why?
No.
Just why?
No. Then Team and Impact, Ethan Carter III, Eddie Edwards, and James Storm defeated Team AAA, El Hijo del Fantasma, Pagido, and Texicano. Then we had a street fight for the Impact World Tag Team Championship. This was so atrociously bad. Oshus versus everything. And that was David Christ and Jake Christ. And they defeated the Latin American Exchange, Ortiz and Santana. Then Gail Kim won her match. We remember this is her retirement match.
Yep, this is her retirement match.
I said it last week. You said, oh, don't pick her. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was wrong.
You convinced me not to pick her.
Hey, you convinced me the furries were going to win King of Trios this year, so I don't want to hear it.
Gail Kim defeated Sienna and Ali for no fucking reason at all. Like, this is so bad booking. Why the fuck do you let Gail Kim win in her retirement match? Makes no fucking... Oh.
Now, if she was 70 years old, I would understand, but...
Yeah, but she's not 70 years old.
She's not. She's still attractive, though.
She's... then we have Lashley and King Mo with American Top Team and Dan Lambert, and they defeated Moose and Stéphane Dumar?
Right.
In the 6 sides of steel tag team match. I think I loved this. This was really good. Not really good, but was one of my favorite matches. But then we had the overbooked mess out of the Impact Global Championship. It was Eli Drake against Johnny Impact. This was so atrociously booked. So Alberto Del Rio comes in, of course, and destroys the fucking thing. Like, I think I liked it what Mike Johnson from Pee-wee Insider says. He says that this was referring to completely bullshit finish of Alberto Del Rio, deceptive interference in that really, really good Drake Impact main event. And it was really, really good. It was really, really good. But then Alberto Del Rio comes in and he fucking destroys everything.
So if
it was the same... Yeah, sorry?
I was going to say, so if he wasn't involved at the end of the main event, that match would have been at best an okay match.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Which was the same overbooked ending that you've seen in a ton of Impact main events, dating back to decades plus. Despite who they are blamed for the decision in the past, Vince Russo, Jeff Jarrett, and
Dixie, so many people.
Having left the company, Johnson felt that it was highly apropos the way they treat the fans as a brand new market and die-hard customers at Impact's biggest show of the year. He says it the best.
Yep.
What a fucking disappointment.
This would be...
Why do this at the Bound of Glory? It's their biggest... It's supposed to be WrestleMania.
Well, looking at the stage... Looking at the stage that they took the picture of earlier in the day, it did not look like a WrestleMania type show for them.
And do you know what? They had to pay people to be there to watch their fucking show.
Okay, let's talk about that.
They hired people for, what was it? $20 ahead to be there as Impact fans. They
Oh.
hired actresses.
Yes, they hired
actors.
And then
Be there.
And then here's the key part to that.
How the fuck do you do that?
Fro, I'm glad you brought that story up. Because here's the key to that story. You had to be a citizen of Ottawa to do this. You couldn't like if Fro heard Tuesday morning that they were paying people to go to Impact and Fro took the next flight to Ottawa, he wouldn't get paid. You had to be a citizen to go and do this.
Oh, it's so fucking... And you see it. You see it in people there. They have no fucking interest in being there. Yeah, and like, you know, one of my biggest complaints about Japanese wrestling is that the crowd is never into it, right?
Right.
I think sitting on your hands and not being a part of a match is kind of weird for me to watch.
Right.
It felt like this was in Japan. Like nobody had no fucking interest to be there at all. Like why the fuck do this? I would rather have a half-empty arena than have it filled with people that had absolutely no clue what the product was about. Because they didn't hire wrestling fans.
No.
They just hired random people that was actors, to be there. And you saw it in the crowd during the night, that the more they came to the ending, the overbooked shit ending of this shit pay-per-view. Oh, so fucking atrocious.
I just don't... Okay, and then the last piece of news that came last night was they announced during their tapings that the headquarters is being moved to Canada.
Yeah.
So that's like the only good thing to come out of that. So that probably means we're going to get more TV tapings in Canada now instead of Orlando.
Yeah.
But it's just like, because I read the results and I heard what people said, and I'm like, you've just got to be kidding me, you know?
Yeah.
Here you are.
There's no fanfare going out of this.
No.
Like, there's nothing that says in Bound for Glory that you have to watch next episode of Impact, and that's the fucking problem with it.
And you know,
having such a lackluster show is it's hurting your product into the future, because nobody's interested with this card and the results of the card to see something more from TNA Impact, what the fuck their name is at the moment.
And here's the thing. That card on paper, with the exception of the Tyson Dukes match, because that was a last minute thing, so that gets a pass.
Right.
That card did not look half bad.
No. It didn't look half bad at all.
On paper, that card should have been at best a decent show.
Mm-hmm.
But what do we expect? It's Impact, so.
No, it's Impact, and it's overbooking, and it's letting. I don't understand what they are thinking about.
Right.
They are making this horrible, stupid thing with Alberto Del Rio. Like, he was going into the ring and giving a promo about how Impact took away his title when he didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything. Like, they are making a crime story that we still don't know all about into a fucking storyline.
Mm.
How absurd And how fucking atrociously disrespectful is that to the fucking fans?
That's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. So I'm going to give this pay-per-view, I'm going to be really honest with you. This gets a 2 out of 10 for me.
All right. Well, I mean, thank you for taking the bullet for us for watching it.
But never again.
Yeah,
never again.
Never again.
Never again, he says. Before next year's.
Exactly. Well, fortunately,
if there's a Bound for Glory next year, I will see.
Fortunately, it was their last pay-per-view of the year, so you don't have to worry about that.
No. Oh.
Now, actually, I do want to stay with Impact because there's one more story. It's about the Global Wrestling Network. You know, their streaming service. They sent email to their subscribers, and Paul Jordan of PW Insider has posted the email, and it goes into very good detail of what they're going to put on their streaming service in the very near future. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So, dear subscriber, thank you for being among our first subscribers to the brand new Global Wrestling Network. We hope you have enjoyed the extensive library of great matches. There's definitely more to come. We also welcome your feedback to make the service better, from new features to content you would like to see. Just let us know through our contact page. And then, coming soon! Every month we're adding new content just for you. Historic pay-per-views from our deep library, fresh new episodes of our latest shows, amazing promotions from around the world, or exclusive digital video that can only be found on GWN. This is what's coming up. All 5 October 2004 episodes of Impact, featuring stars like Jeff Hardy, Monty Brown, and Abyss in a #1 contendership tournament, and the high-wire action of the X Division, including a massive 6-man gauntlet match. Some of the most popular compilations in Impact's history: The Best of AJ Styles, Parts 1 and 2, The Best of the X Division, Parts 1 and 2, and The Best of Christian Cage. You want to guess, Fro?
1 and 2?
Parts 1 and 2. Very good. All 4 November 2004 episodes of Impact, featuring the fallout from TNA's first 3-hour pay-per-view, Victory Road, the Impact debuts of all-time legends Macho Man Randy Savage and Diamond Dallas Page, and a fantasy dream match between AJ Styles and Scott Hall. 2 classic Asylum Years pay-per-views every week, featuring stars like AJ Styles, Raven, Jeff Jarrett, and CM Punk. And then these last 2 paragraphs actually caught my eye.
Okay.
Stay tuned for more content from independent promotions around the world, including two seasons of Rocky Mountain Pro's flagship program, Charged, out of Colorado. That is a real name. Hard-hitting action from Wisconsin-based Freedom Pro Wrestling. North Carolina's annual...
The most American name ever.
Yep. Yeah. North Carolina's annual WrestleCade extravaganza. Plus, Toronto, Canada's Super Kicked.
Super Kicked?
Super Kicked.
Wow.
Also coming soon, the biggest stars and matches from the rare St. Louis Wrestling at the Chase Library, showcasing the likes of Ric Flair, Harley Race, Cowboy Bob Orton, Dick the Bruiser, Bruiser Brody, Gene Kiniski, Lou Thez, Dory Funk Jr., and Ted DiBiase. Okay, I just want to say, with that last paragraph, that is actually pretty freaking big. Because that is a video library that WWE does not have. And I have, when High Spots put out the best of St. Louis wrestling many years ago. I have all 12 volumes of the DVD. And the fact that it's going to be on here, that's a pretty big deal. My only question is, are they going to be the episodes, like the episodes instead of a compilation best of? Because if it's episodes, I might sign up for that. I might. If it's compilations, But that's the only positive thing right now going with Impact is their streaming service.
Absolutely. I'm quite surprised how much quality they are showing in something that they didn't really care about.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what Impact does. Their tapings are going on, and I don't feel like talking about their tapings. You guys, if you watch it, go watch it for yourselves. If you haven't read it, go and read it. You're not going to be surprised. Well, I don't know. Just go and be surprised.
Yeah, I don't care.
We have some political news, and this really surprised me because I didn't even know this was happening. Because we were so focused on Kane running for the mayor of whatever town it is in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That slipping through the cracks of wrestling podcast news, former WWE and Impact Wrestling star and also former American Gladiator, Matt Morgan won the race for Longwood City Commissioner District 4 in Florida.
Really?
He captured the election to the tune of 58.5% to 41.5%.
That's a lot.
In a press release announcing his plans to run last August, Morgan commented, "I have never been the type to sit back and armchair quarterback or just complain about things. I am the type that goes out and gets things done. I feel it's my duty to step up and finally start doing, in capital letters, what needs to be done here for my fellow neighbors in this beautiful city. I want to do everything possible to make this city a place my 3-year-old autistic son can take pride in." Oh, now I want to root for this guy.
Yeah.
I hope that one day he decides to raise his family here as well. I decided it's time to start doing. It's time to be the voice of the voiceless here in the city of Longwood. Morgan has become a spokesperson for children and adults with attention deficit and hyperactive disorder, the CHADD, and the DARE program.
I dare you to talk about it.
Now, actually, he did comment, and I'm trying to find the link, because he did make a comment after he... Okay, here it is. So after he won the election, he beat the incumbent, Mark Weller. He went onto Twitter and wrote, "What goes around does actually come back around in politics. Who knew? LOL. We shocked the world. Hashtag Longwood. Hashtag Longwood love. Hashtag Safety."
Safety?
Safety.
Oh.
So, but you know what? Congratulations to Matt Morgan.
Yeah, I always liked his wrestling style.
Jim Cornette was a big fan of his.
Yeah.
I remember how disappointed he was when WWE used him, and
They didn't use him.
The stuttering gimmick. That's all I gotta say. The stuttering.
Awful.
Yep.
Wasn't he in TNA for?
He was for a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to say he might have main evented a couple of their shows. Pay-per-view shows.
I remember him in TNA as one of their best things in TNA for a long time.
So, again, congratulations to Commissioner
Matt Morgan.
Matt Morgan. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Have you watched the 20 for 20? Or have we going to
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that. I got a chance. You know what? I DVR'd it Tuesday night.
Mm.
I did watch the first segment just to see what it was going to be like. And then yesterday I got to watch it, the whole thing.
Mm.
Oh my, that
one of the most hard things I watched in quite a while. And I'm not saying it's bad.
Right.
It's really, really
no,
good.
it is fantastic.
It is fantastic, but it's really hard to watch to see how much that man has gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like it when they took a break from the interview when he got to the hospital and gave updates and things like that.
Yeah, they did mention that in like the brief notes in the middle. It was like post-production, so that was really nice. One thing, there are many things I liked about this. One of which is how they separated the two interviews time-wise.
Yeah, so good.
Because the first one, like the first interview was like at the end of October 2015. And then the second interview was February of this year. So they timed that beautifully. I liked the animation in the stories that they drew pictures of. I really liked that.
Yeah, it was a smart way to connect the stories together. And there's something when, and I don't think this documentary could be any better. To be honest,
it couldn't.
I just love the shit out of it. And I think maybe it's one of the things that moved me the most. I'm getting a little teary-eyed over it almost. Is the story about his dying son?
Oh God, that was so tough.
And how they did it with the Reed story was showing so much respect for that man.
Oh God,
and the tribulation they went through, and the interview with him starting crying about his daughter, and
it was like, and in that 10-minute part of the movie, 10-15 minutes, might have been the hardest part of the movie because it's like
so hard to watch.
Because like
I'm going to be honest with you, I was crying up there for moments. It was so hard to watch and see how much that man.
He loved him.
Yeah, I loved him.
He loved him. I mean, because it's like, because Triple H talked about how Reed had failed a drug test.
Yeah.
And probably to sign for developmental. And Rick's like, no, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. And he's like, okay, well, you know what? Because it's you, I'm willing to give your son another drug test. So they take the second drug test, and it's worse. The results are worse than the first one.
Yeah.
And then I remember hearing that news when he died. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, that's going to always be, I think Reed Flair is going to be in that list of what could have been. Because
he would be amazing.
I always wondered, I always wonder still to this day, if Reed had been alive, and if Ricky Steamboat's son, Richie, who was in NXT for a while, had never gotten that back injury, how those matches would have been. I don't know if they would have been as great as their dads were, but the hype for that match would have been incredible.
Yeah.
It just would have been incredible. And then, I'll tell you...
Look, and all the talk about his drinking... I've never seen Ric Flair so fucking honest.
Yeah, that's about as honest as I think we will ever see him be.
Yeah, he was laying it direct, like line for line out.
Yeah.
How he screwed all those women over.
10,000.
How he disappointed his wife. How he cheated. How he lived his life. It was so revealing, especially when they took those shots from that chat show where he was talking about if wrestling was fake or not, and he said, "No, it's not fake. It's choreographed."
Yeah,
I loved hearing him talk about it.
I'll tell you the one story that really caught my attention was when he went to see the sports psychologist.
Yeah,
and how I think it was like he said the first time that he met him.
Yeah.
So he tells him, and then the doctor goes, "Okay, how many times do you masturbate a day?" And Rick's like, "I masturbate twice a day." And then he's like, "Do you drink any alcohol?" "Yeah, I drink alcohol." "Yeah. How much alcohol do you drink?" And he goes, "I drink 10 cans of beer and I..."
10 fucking cans.
Yep.
Yep.
Not quite Andre the Giant level, but getting there.
Still.
10 cans
of beer every fucking night.
Fro, on a good day, I can only go through 2.
Yep.
On a good day, I can only go through 2. So he says, I drink 10 cans of beers and I have 5 martinis or cocktails. And the doctor's like, "Wait a minute. You drink 10 cans of beer, 5 martinis, and you wrestle every day, 365 days a year." He's like, "Yep." And then at the end, the doctor's sitting on the couch and Flair's in the chair. And he's like, "You should come with me for a week. You should see how it goes."
Yeah.
That was really good. I also liked how I'll tell you one section that really got me was his relationship with his parents and how that's tough.
Awful they were.
Basically, yeah. Because
Awful
Flair
parents.
is adopted.
I didn't know that.
I had heard, I think it's in his autobiography that he mentioned that. Okay. And I didn't know.
All the people around him talked shit about his parents. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of surprising because like everybody's like, yeah, they abandoned him. I was like, oh. And he goes like, yeah, they were good parents. I was like, what? How can you say that when they did so much shit against you?
And it was like, I mean, because I can understand when he mentioned in the beginning how he had his birthday and then his adoption anniversary.
Right.
We had that with Michael for about 3 years because he was born in February, and officially his adoption became official in June.
Right.
Even though my brother and his wife, they had him for months, but the papers had to go through. So I can understand with Rick where he's coming from on that, as someone who has a nephew who is adopted. And I watched it. Part of me wanted to really support the guy, give him a pat on the back and be like, "You poor man. You poor man." And then, like you said, the other stuff he had said at the end of the movie. "I'm never going to win an award for the best husband ever. I'm never going to be known as the greatest father ever. I'll probably be remembered as the greatest wrestler of all time."
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad for his kids because, especially the 2 older ones, David and Megan. Because when they were growing up was when Rick's best work was that time.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for them, but
And that's kind of what that documentary gave me as well. It was a deep look into what makes a person commit to something like that. It takes us a different personality to kind of live the gimmick.
Yeah.
Because you can say many things about Ric Flair and how bad his parenting skills and things like that is. But he fucking lived this gimmick, and he did it through love. And you could see that in that documentary how much he fucking loved pro wrestling. Yeah.
And I think we should say, I mean, even Rick would have said this. He's not a saint. He's not an angel.
No.
He's done terrible shit,
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, Ric Flair's as a human being. He's as much of a human being as you and I or anybody else that's listening to this. But the one line in that entire documentary that really hit me in the heart was when the director asked him, could you ever see yourself going out to socialize and not drink any alcohol? And he said, no, I could never do it. And then he has that near-death experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I heard that, when he said that line, I was like, holy shit. That, what almost happened. I will say this, because I have seen a respectable amount of wrestling documentaries, Fro.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this for the record. This, hands down, is the best wrestling documentary I have ever seen.
Yeah, I will give it a 10 out of 10. I just fucking loved it. And if you don't even care about pro wrestling,
exactly,
you should see this documentary, because it's not really about pro wrestling. It is about Ric Flair and how fucking interesting his life has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think the moral of the story, and this is to any young person who wants to become a professional wrestler, the moral is, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for, because you might get it, and you might lose a lot of things.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All in all, a fantastic movie. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to bring it up, but I'm glad you did bring that up.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was. I almost cried. I'll admit it. I almost cried. I didn't cry.
I felt it there. I'm going to be honest. I cried a little.
And if you guys do cry, it's okay. But all right, let's get to New Japan. And before we get to the big story there, before we get to that,
I can't wait for this. I'm so excited.
We have to talk about what is coming up real soon for New Japan. And this is their end of the year tag team, round robin tournament that they have. Because, we've had the best of the Super Juniors for the junior heavyweights. We had the G1 Climax. And they will have, to end the year, their annual World Tag League Tournament, which begins next Saturday, November the 18th. And yes, folks, they are wrestling on Thanksgiving, but they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Japan, so. But anyway, it begins on November the 18th, and it's going to go all the way until December the 11th, when the finals will take place. I have the list of teams that are going to be competing in this, and before I announce the teams, this is something that should be noted. Okada, Naito, Tanahashi, and Omega are not in this tournament.
Why?
Well, okay. Okada and Naito's the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. You don't want to risk either one of them getting hurt.
No.
Omega.
Well, are they the main event?
Well, that's true. That's a very good question, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
I'm not sure they are the main event anymore.
Tanahashi's a little banged up, so.
He is. Okay.
Yeah, so. And pretty much whoever wins this tournament, unless it's the tag champs, are going to get a championship match at Wrestle Kingdom on January the 4th. So here are the teams in the respective blocks. We will start with Block A, and we have Juice Robinson.
When does this start? Sorry.
When does it start or end?
Yeah. No, start.
November 18th.
November 18th.
November 18th.
So we're just around the corner.
Mm-hmm. So in Block A, we have Juice Robinson and the debuting Sami Callihan.
Ooh.
We have Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi.
Mm-hmm.
Hiroyoshi Tenzan, and Satoshi Kojima. Yuji Nagata and Manabu Nakanishi. Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Hangman Page and Yujiro Takahashi. Minoru Suzuki and Takashi Iizuka. And rounding out the A block, Evil and Sonata.
Mm.
In the
a lot of good names there.
Yeah, you got some talented people there. In the B block, you have Toji Makabe and Hanare. If I messed that name, I apologize. Michael Elgin and the debuting Jeff Cobb. And Jeff Cobb.
Where is he from?
Cobb is from the U.S. He's impressive son of a gun.
Okay.
Oh my God. I would look him up on YouTube. You were in for a treat.
Okay. I haven't heard his name before.
We have David Finlay and Katsuya Kitamura. We have War Machine, Ray-Ro and Hansen. Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano. We have Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor. We have the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tongaroa. And the IWGP Tag Team Champions, the Killer Elite Squad, Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith Jr. And that rounds out the field. I don't know who to pick, honestly.
No.
Because, I'm going to say the champs cannot win this tournament. So,
No.
So, Killer Elite Squad, you're gone. You're out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're down to 15 teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm going to go, just for the shock factor, I'm going to go Elgin and Cobb. That could be a hell of a tag team.
Mm.
That could. But.
And how many days is this over?
Almost a month.
Almost a month.
Almost a month. So.
One match every day or what?
No, they're gonna get they're gonna get some days off in between. So they'll start off 4 days straight, 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. Then they'll have a travel day, and then they'll go for 4, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. Then they'll have another travel day on the 27th. Then they have a show on the 28th. Then they have another travel day. Then they have a show on the 30th. And then you go to 30th, then December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. They have a travel day on the 4th. And then December 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then they have a travel day on the 10th. And then the finals is on the 11th.
Wow. That's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they don't have the big Kingdom wrestling there.
Oh God, no! You would not want to risk not in a tournament like this. But so I think that's it for New Japan. Oh no, there's other stuff. Okay.
I mean, the biggest news ever.
Oh my. Okay, yeah. So this broke here in the U.S. early Sunday morning, so that was probably like Sunday afternoon in Norway. Chris Jericho challenged Kenny Omega to a match at Wrestle Kingdom 12. And folks, it is going to happen. Omega and Jericho will happen.
It is so incredibly big.
Well,
and how is he allowed to do this?
Well, okay. Now I'm glad you asked that. Jericho, right now, is not under contract with WWE. So he can do whatever the heck he wants to do. And guess what? He's going to be wrestling in the Tokyo Dome on January the 4th. And he's going to face Omega. This, I hate to use the term because I think this term gets used a lot. This is a dream match. Because you have Omega, who right now is one of the most confident, arrogant people in the business, but he's so damn good with it. And you have Jericho, who is one of the all-time greats. He could wrestle a paper bag, and he could have a 4-star match.
Right.
And I have the card with me, and because I want to mention this. This match is for the IWGP United States Championship. So this is a title match at Wrestle Kingdom. And you brought up a very good question. Is this the main event?
The main event? Yeah, it has to be. It has to be the main event.
Okay, now, and you know what? On most occasions, I would agree with you. But I'm gonna disagree with you. And I'll tell you why. Because you have the heavyweight title match, which is Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya Naito. If we lived in Japan, that's the main event. But outside of Japan,
it's not.
Right. And I'll tell you, about 4 years ago, and I remember this very fondly. New Japan had a poll for what the main event of that year's Wrestle Kingdom would be. And one of the matches was Okada versus Naito for the heavyweight title. And that match lost to Tanahashi and Nakamura. And that match was for the Intercontinental title. Imagine if this match, if this match for the United States title, let me repeat that again, the United States Championship is the main event of a Wrestle Kingdom ahead of the heavyweight title match.
Yep. It could happen.
It could.
It could.
It could.
It absolutely could. I'm super stoked for this. It's so big. It is maybe the biggest independent main event in history. It is so big. It's huge.
I'm going to say something that I've seen a couple people say it. And right now, it is true. This card, right now, is bigger than whatever we're going to get at WrestleMania next year.
Oh, yes. This is much bigger than WrestleMania.
I think
this is huge.
The best phrase that I've read was New Japan out WrestleMania'd WrestleMania.
Oh, definitely. This would never happen in a WrestleMania. So
no, not it.
It's definitely.
Well, you know what though?
Definitely bigger.
But Fro, this is the wrestling business. We never say never. I've learned that after so many years. You never say never in the wrestling business.
No, so definitely bigger.
Right. So I have the current card in front of me. Obviously not all the matches have been announced, but the matches that I do have are championship matches that are already set. So I'm going to read them to you. Obviously, like we said, Omega versus Chris Jericho for the U.S. title. Hiroshi Tanahashi is going to defend the Intercontinental title against Switchblade Jay White. And that's a big deal because I've been watching Jay White in Ring of Honor for, I think it's been at least the last year and a half he's been there. And he has been impressive. And for him to come in and he's going to get this big of a match at Wrestle Kingdom.
So big.
Oh,
so big.
That could be the show stealer, folks. I'm calling it out. That could be the show stealer.
Definitely big.
The junior heavyweight title is going to be defended in a fatal four-way.
Yeah.
Marty Scurll, the new junior heavyweight champion, is going to defend the title against Will Ospreay, the former champ, Kushida, and Hiromu Takahashi. Oh, God. Then we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles as Roppongi 3K of Yo and Sho, who were the Tempura Boys in Ring of Honor. They are going to defend those titles against the Young Bucks. Then, Cody Rhodes, if he is still the Ring of Honor World Champion, will defend that title against Kota Ibushi.
And lose it.
Ooh, you never know. And then, as we said earlier, Kazuchika Okada defending the IWGP Heavyweight title against Tetsuya Naito.
Fucking bad match in that pay-per-view.
No, not right now.
There's not one single match I don't want to see in that pay-per-view.
And
it's going to be so incredibly big.
And Fro, are you ready for this?
The biggest you've ever seen.
Are you ready for the scary part?
Yeah.
The card is not complete.
Yeah, no, it's not even complete, and it's so big now. Like, imagine if they put more on it, then it will become even huger. And it's so huge right now.
Well,
it's so amazingly big right now. So huge.
Well,
and wow. It can't be bigger.
Okay, well, right now, we have 6 championship matches set.
Yep.
We're going to get a 7th with the IWGP tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
We could have an 8th with the never openweight title. We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be a 9th with the 6-man tag team titles.
I know. It's so big.
Oh. Now, I do have to bring this up. This obviously will not be a problem for you. This could be a problem for me, though. That event is on January the 4th. That is a Thursday. That is the day you and I normally record.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who have already said They are taking the day off of work to see this show. I might have to do that.
Yeah.
Because, okay, Japan is 13 hours ahead of me, where I live.
Yeah.
So it would start at 5 p.m. there, which means it would start at 4 in the morning over here.
4 in the morning in the United States.
On the East Coast.
I am so extremely happy because you know what that means in Norway time.
You get to stay up and see it.
Yep. I'm going to see it fucking live.
Oh God. Now,
I'm
okay.
going to see it live.
Now,
it's going to be
here's
so big.
Now here's my thing. And this is something that I have to think about. I have not missed a day of work yet this year. Knock on wood. And I'm not including my training, because I've gone to a training or two. So technically I have not missed a day of work yet this year.
Right.
If I knock on wood, if I don't get sick between now and my Christmas break, should I take that day off just to see this?
Yes.
And then I'd have to come up with the worst excuse of all time. I'd have to come up with the excuse of a lifetime.
I'm a little sick.
But here's the thing. I could do that, but also at the same time, I don't know. This may be the only time I want to skip work just to see a wrestling show.
But it's going to be so big.
Oh, and then.
Oh, it's
but
so
here's another plus though to this, Fro.
Oh, yeah.
If I do this, if I take off work that day.
Oh my God! Yeah.
When the show is over, we could hop right on and start recording.
Yep. Definitely.
That is a huge plus because that's going to be a 5-hour show anyway. So.
Yeah. It is going to be.
Oh my God!
Huge.
So I have a lot to think about, folks.
So oh my God! It's so big.
I could probably afford a day. I could probably afford to miss it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd have to come up with the excuse of a lifetime.
Definitely.
To see this. Plus, if I do take the day off, I get paid anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
So, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Other news?
There is one more New Japan news. Then we're gonna get to WWE because there's a shitload of news there. New Japan will be coming back to the United States this March, and they're going to stay in the California area. However. And I can't find the name of it, but it's going to be in March, and they're going to be there the week before WrestleMania, or 2 weeks before WrestleMania, pardon me. So that means that they will be there, and they'll have some talent, because there's going to be some New Japan talent that's going to be a part of WrestleMania weekend, for Ring of Honor. Yeah. So here it is. Okay. So they're going to be in Long Beach, California on March the 25th. And they will be at the Walter Pyramid on the campus of Long Beach State University.
And when is WrestleMania?
WrestleMania is April the 8th. So it's 2 weeks before WrestleMania.
2 weeks.
Okay, so yeah, that's New Japan news right there.
Yep.
Because there's a bajillion things that's going to happen, and
I can't wait.
What a time it is right now to be a wrestling fan. What a time.
Right now, there's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan, to be honest with you.
It very well could. I do have some quick Ring of Honor news, and this might make some people happy. If you're going to a Ring of Honor show next weekend, either in Texas or Oklahoma, and more in particular in Oklahoma, Madison Rayne will make her return to Ring of Honor Wrestling.
Oh, that's good news. I always liked her.
She will be competing against Deonna Purrazzo. And
I really like the Brasso. She's really good.
She is really good. I've met Madison Rayne. She is a wonderful person, a sweet lady. So I got nothing bad to say about her. All right, let's get to because there is WWE news, folks.
Oh yeah,
a lot of it because Monday night on Raw, we had new tag team champions crowned. Cesaro and Sheamus won the belts for the third time, beating Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins with I guess you could say assist to a degree by the New Day. The New Day came out during the match and they cost Ambrose and Rollins the Raw Tag Team titles.
Yeah. Not a huge surprise. I think my biggest surprise is SmackDown news, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute. So now, the tag match at the Survivor Series is changed, so it will now be Cesaro and Sheamus against the Usos. Now, that actually could be a very good match. That could. Also, on Raw, Monday night, Kurt Angle announced that Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Jason Jordan will team up with Kurt Angle, who is the captain, and Braun Strowman on the Raw team. So the Raw team is set for the Survivor Series.
But so is SmackDown team.
Right. And we will get to that as well in a moment. Mm-hmm. Also, for the women, 2 new members were announced. Asuka, pretty obvious choice there. And Sasha Banks joined. And then we have this news. This Monday night on Raw, the final member of the Raw women's team will be determined on Raw for the Survivor Series in a triple threat match with Bayley, Mickie James, and Dana Brooke.
I'm going to guess.
Okay.
Dana Brooke.
No.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, they don't really have anything to use her for, so why the fuck not?
So, whoever wins will join the team of Alicia Fox, Nia Jax, Sasha Banks, and Asuka to face the SmackDown team, which consists of Becky Lynch as the captain, Charlotte, Naomi, Tamina, and Carmella.
It's such an A team against the B team. It's so like it is like it's so limited on one side. I will be so fucking surprised if SmackDown win.
Yeah, I would be very surprised. So that's Monday. Then we go to Tuesday night, and the big surprise came out of nowhere. AJ Styles defeated Jinder Mahal in the ring to become, once again, the WWE champion.
I was so fucking happy.
I honestly could not believe it happened.
I'm so extremely happy to see this.
Right, because we had talked about for a while how we thought the gender experiment had, for the most part, failed.
Failed. Yeah, failed. Totally. And especially they gotten a lot of feedback on their racist shit
Mm-hmm.
they gotten through with in this gimmick. And it stinks of racism. And I'm so happy that it seems like they are kind of punishing him. Doesn't it for you? Losing it like that?
Well, actually, there is a reason why this match got why it got changed, and I'll get to that in a minute. But did you see when it happened? There's this one picture, and I felt so bad for this guy. Here's all the fans. They're cheering. They're celebrating. AJ won the title. Here's this Indian man in a turban, in a green turban. He's just standing there with his arms folded. I'm like, you poor man.
Poor man, yeah.
Oh, gosh. So, because of that, AJ Styles now faces Brock Lesnar at the Survivor Series. Oh. Now, like I said, believe it or not, Fro, there is a reason why this happened.
Okay.
Because, according to a report, Brock Lesnar did not want to face Jinder Mahal because he did not feel Jinder Mahal could bring money.
I can understand that.
Part of me wants to go, Brock, stop being a whiny person. You're hardly on the road, and but at the same time, and I hate to discredit Jinder, but he's got a point. He has a legitimate point. Jinder has not done that good of a job as WWE champion. Like I said, with all due respect, he's not been that good of a champion. So Jinder, so you would think, okay, Jinder's lost the title. He's gonna be in the SmackDown team for the big 5-on-5 Survivor Series match there. Wrong. Because it was announced yesterday.
And boo this news. Boo.
John Cena is going to be on Team SmackDown at the Survivor Series.
It makes no fucking sense.
Yes, it does.
I will tell you why.
Okay, you tell me.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you tell me.
I don't think it makes any fucking sense, and I will tell you why. The reason why I don't think it makes any sense is he was a free agent. As a free agent, he is not in any of SmackDown or Raw. That's why it doesn't make any sense.
But, Fro, you just made my argument. Because he is a free agent, he can go to either show, he can do whatever he wants.
Why would he fight for... It makes no storyline. It makes no storyline sense when he is not really committed to be on either Raw or SmackDown, to have a storyline where he's fighting for a brand he doesn't really...
Well, no, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. You make a good point. But it's the fact that he is John Cena, and
I know it's the fact.
And he can do whatever he wants.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but I'll tell you this: I'd rather see John Cena in a match at Survivor Series than what his original role was going to be.
Yep.
He was going to be the referee for Lesnar and Mahal. Now he's not. I'd rather have that. I'd rather...
definitely.
I would rather have John Cena in a match at Survivor Series than seeing him as a referee for a meaningless main event that
Right.
didn't make any sense whatsoever. So, but I will say this, though.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, how time can do this. Last week, we talked about, or even 2 weeks ago, we talked about this Survivor Series card looks terrible. In a matter of 2 days, it has changed completely.
Yep.
Because now the tag team champion match changed.
Yeah.
The women's match
Changed. Yeah.
The men's Survivor Series match changed.
Yeah.
And we're not done. Well, actually, and one more. The Universal Champion and WWE Champion, that match changed. And there's still...
they are changing a lot. And I don't like it.
And there's one more thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Because this Tuesday on SmackDown, Charlotte challenges Natalya for the women's title, the SmackDown women's title. So
and I wouldn't be surprised if she wins.
Exactly!
Yeah.
Which would switch Natalya into the women's Survivor Series match.
Survivor Series match, yeah.
It could happen. It could happen.
It's not good. It's really, really bad. It's boo. Boo.
So, you would think, after us talking about that we would be done with news. That is where we are, again, wrong. Because during the tour, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were sent home from the European tour following SmackDown in England.
Yep.
Now, and I was very...
Why?
Exactly. Well, this is according to multiple sources.
Mm-hmm.
There was an issue at the taping where the duo allegedly, and I put this in quotes, did what they wanted during the close of the segment with New Day as opposed to being physically run off by the team. We are told there was a situation where Owens was allegedly complaining loudly on a tour bus after the taping, which one person decreed was the last straw following a long few days of touring. Another person who was on the bus cited that Owens was just venting and that it wasn't a major issue, but that the situation at TV may have exasperated the situation, forcing WWE's hand.
And this looks so fucking bad for them.
Oh.
Like, this is atrociously stupid news. Why behave like this? Why the fuck behave like this at all?
Well,
you don't need to do it.
No, you don't. Well, Dave Meltzer, he got a little bit more detail on this. And I'll read this. This was posted last night. So this is what the Melts wrote. Though details are sparse at this point, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have been removed from the European tour. Dave Meltzer reports that Owens and Zayn aren't at SmackDown's house show in Leeds and won't be appearing on the rest of the tour. Both were on TV last night where they interrupted Shane McMahon and the New Day in the opening segment and traded words with them in a promo. Kofi Kingston then defeated Zayn in a match, with it later being announced that Owens and Zayn would be teaming against the New Day next week on SmackDown. Without Roman Reigns, WWE has been shorthanded on this tour. Triple H filled in for Reigns at the first 5 stops for Raw's tour. Angle teamed with Rollins and Ambrose on Tuesday, and New Day were moved to the Raw side for their remaining dates after this week's TV. How it affects the SmackDown house shows will be affected by their absence. Meltzer also updated that they were sent home as a disciplinary measure after their post-match angle with the New Day didn't go as planned on SmackDown. They were supposed to stay in the ring to be beaten up, but left the ring early. Basically, and this is a term that I had never heard, Owens and Zayn did not feed to the New Day. And what that means is basically take the beatings. Take the ass kicking. But I agree with you. Here you are.
That's so stupid.
Here you are. You have right now, arguably, the best program in WWE.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they go and fuck it up like that. It's no fucking. It's no. There's absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason.
And then also, what I also read, and this was not reported on any of on PW Insider or Wrestling Observer, and these are rumors that I have heard, is that they are mad with WWE for how they have treated the situation with Neville, which I can understand, and also for the firing of Jimmy Jacobs, who was fired about a month ago, maybe not even a month, because he took a picture with the Bullet Club when they invaded Raw last month.
Right.
And Jimmy Jacobs was a writer for WWE.
Yeah. No, it makes no sense. Grow some fucking balls, people.
And the thing that surprises me the most, here's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Right.
They just struck gold with this storyline after Hell in a Cell.
And it's a fantastic storyline.
Yes! Because they've been enemies forever. I was there at Battleground last year. They had one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, no.
And then, they get back together after forever, and then this happens.
Yeah,
and
no.
I don't want them to lose their jobs because I think if what I read right is gonna happen, Owens is gonna have a huge match at WrestleMania next year.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
No.
Just hang in there. Oh, just hang in there, please. Just hang in there.
Oh, it's so atrociously stupid.
Man. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. But there is some good news that I do want to bring up for those who have the WWE Network, and for those of you who are fans of old school wrestling like I am. It has been reported that when the new year begins in the month of January, they will be putting up on the WWE Network Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which is the precursor to WCW. And you get to see Flair, Piper, Steamboat, the Briscoes, Dory Funk Jr. You get to see a lot of guys on there. So I am really pumped up for that.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of news to discuss. Do you want to end do you want to end this portion of the show in a funny way?
Sure.
All right. Well, it's with everybody's favorite monster right now, Braun Strowman. A week and a half ago, Monday Night Raw was in Baltimore, Maryland, and if you've never been to Baltimore, you know that Maryland is known for two things: crab cakes and football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to talk about the food. Because Braun Strowman went to Jimmy's Famous Seafood in Baltimore. And let me tell you what they gave him. He had 7 pounds of seafood as he ate the seafood UFO sandwich. I have the picture in front of me, and I will describe to the best of my ability what is on the seafood UFO 7-pound sandwich. You have lettuce, tomato, chicken, shrimp, grilled chicken, melted cheese on a special kind of, it looks like pita bread.
Okay.
I'll send you the picture so you can see it for yourself, Fro.
Okay. And what does this have to do with wrestling?
Braun Strowman dominated that 7-pound sandwich.
Ah.
Oh, he dominated it.
Ah.
He dominated it like a woman. No, I'm just kidding. But there is a video up on Jimmy's Seafood Twitter account if you want to see them making it. And I don't know if they show him eating it or not. I'm not sure. I'll watch the video later. So if you have Twitter, it is at Jimmy's Seafood. And it's a capital J and a capital S for seafood. So,
cool.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this portion of the show, but we're going to do our plugs. If you have any questions or comments, send an email, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at WrestlingShow11 at Twitter, which now has 280 characters. My dad joked.
Such a bad joke.
My dad. No, hold on. My dad joked. The reason they did it is because Donald Trump can put more stuff on Twitter. So he might be right. You never know. You could join our Facebook group. Type in That Wrestling Show. You are right there. And if for some reason you cannot find us, click on the link below and you are right there. Don't forget to visit our website, thatwrestlingshow.com. Don't forget to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Bill's World of Podcasts. And you know what? We got to plug two new things, Fro. Go to W2Mnet.com, where if you're not subscribed via iTunes, you can listen to our show on there, W2Mnet.com. All you do is you go to podcasts, you click on that, you go all the way to the bottom of the page, and you'll see our logo right there. And we are on a very cool Facebook group with different wrestling podcasts. So if you have a wrestling podcast and you might want to spread the love around, join us at Putting Over Podcasts. Join us there. We have some of our friends there actually on there.
Yep.
So next week, it is our Survivor Series preview show.
Whoa.
Where we will preview the Survivor Series. We're going to make our predictions.
And
yes.
NXT.
And NXT. Oh, God. I can't wait for that one. And we are going to be live on Facebook. So, live! So that'll be a lot of fun. And who knows what else will happen next week. We'll do our drawing. We know that. We're going to do our drawings next week.
I promise you I will not talk about that shitty pay-per-view.
Fro, you did God's work with that.
I did.
You did.
Oh, I'm glad that nobody else has to watch that shit.
Yep. So, stay tuned, because coming up next, I will be joined by a very good group of experts as we will commemorate the 20th anniversary of the most infamous day in wrestling history, the Montreal Screwjob. So we'll sneak this one in real quick, Fro. Tune in to this, the Montreal part, and next week's show. And as always, wrestle on!
Wrestling!
November 9th, 1997. A day which forever has lived in wrestling infamy. On a cold November night in Montreal, Bret the Hitman Hart would defend the World Wrestling Federation Championship against his challenger Shawn Michaels. Little did we know on that night that it would be Bret Hart's last match in the World Wrestling Federation. Little did we know that he would be leaving on his way to World Championship Wrestling. And little did we know the ramifications of this night and the impact that it would have on the history of professional wrestling. Now, on this, the 20th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob, that wrestling show will take an in-depth look into not only the most controversial match in wrestling history, but one of the most controversial nights as well. Join us for a special look on that wrestling show at Montreal 20 years later. Yes, folks, it has been 20 years since the most controversial match in the history of professional wrestling took place. But for a lot of people, they probably don't remember the actual event as well. But we are going to talk about everything that happened and so much. And we have an esteemed panel here to join us tonight to talk about the Montreal Screwjob, the 20th anniversary. So let me introduce.
I am the closest one to Montreal.
Oh, yes, you are. That voice you hear.
It's a 5-hour drive.
Oh, 5 hours. Okay.
Nice.
That voice you hear is Ted, who makes his return after. Well, he's been very busy as of late.
What's up, guys?
Also returning is Ruben.
Howdy, everyone.
And making his debut here on that wrestling show is Mike.
Hey, audience! Nice to meet you guys.
And for the record, Ted, it's not Little Mike, not my nephew.
I prefer Big Mike. That's his
Well,
Oh, no, that was a different Mike.
So yeah, we are here because it is the 20th anniversary. If you can believe it, of the 1997 Survivor Series, and like I said in the beginning, there were things that happened at this event besides the main event. But my first question, and this is directed to all three of you. I'm going to assume none of you were there in Montreal that night.
Never been to Canada.
I was not in Montreal that night, no.
All right. Mike,
I was way too poor to afford any tickets to Canada. I could barely afford the pay-per-view.
Okay. So pretty much none of us were there that night.
Right.
My next question is, and I just want to see if I get a yes out of this. Did any of you guys see this event live when it happened 20 years ago?
That'd be a note for me.
All right.
Unfortunately, that's a no from me.
All right.
That is a yes for me.
Oh, all right.
That's why when I saw you post this, I was like, okay, I gotta get in this.
Okay.
I don't normally watch wrestling anymore, but
Right.
back then I was a huge fan.
All right. Well, I watched it that night as well, so we're going to have an interesting discussion, Mike, a little bit later on. So, real quick, let's go into some of the minor details of this particular Survivor Series. For example, the tagline for that year's Survivor Series happened to be Gang Rules. And on the poster, there were 4 guys, all shadow figures. We don't know who they were. So, The world may never know. The commentating team that night.
My money is on one of them was going to clown.
Body-wise, maybe. Body-wise,
It was
maybe.
Jerry and JR, right?
Yes, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were the commentators that night. Vince McMahon did not do commentary, which was actually the first time that happened because, God, Vince had been doing pay-per-views forever. So he was the one that was not on commentary. We also had the Spanish announce team. We had the French announce team. But one thing that was different from this pay-per-view from so many others was the ring announcer. Howard Finkel was not the ring announcer for that event that night. I have the name in front of me, and if I mess it up to all of our Canadian friends, I do apologize. The ring announcer that night was Albert de Frugia. Or I guess it's Albert or Albert. I'm going to go Albert. Albert de Frugia was...
I gotta say, that sounds like a character from Les Miserables, so you might have...
Okay.
Definitely close enough.
Yeah. And the backstage reporters were Kevin Kelly and Michael Cole. So, a very young Kevin Kelly and Michael Cole, we should add. Okay, so there were 7 matches on this show. 4 of them happened to be traditional Survivor Series elimination matches. We can go through them real quick, unless any of you guys have any memory of those matches.
To be honest, I had no memory of anything but the Screwjob. I had to go back and watch the Screwjob last night just to prep for this.
Wow.
So I wanted to make sure it was fresh in my mind how I felt that day.
And I myself had to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
All right. So here were the 4 Survivor Series matches that happened. The opening match, the first one, featured the Godwins and the New Age Outlaws against the Headbangers and the New Blackjacks. I know, such a thrilling... Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were the survivors in that match. Believe it or not. Well, no, actually, I could believe it. The second match was the Truth Commission of the Interrogator, the Jackal, Recon, and Sniper against the Disciples of Apocalypse. Chains, 8-Ball, Skull, and Crush.
Are these guys like jobbers?
No, these were legitimate factions.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember. Crush was like a part of Demolition or something. Once upon a time, right? And,
early in his career.
I used to do his moves sometimes with my little cousin,
Dakota Crush.
Which was just fun to do. It's like, oh, screwed your head.
The Interrogator was the sole survivor in that match. Then we had Team Canada against Team USA. Team Canada consisted of the British Bulldog, Doug Furness, Jim Neihart, and Phil LaFawn. Only one of those, I think, were actually Canadian. So, the opposing team USA, consisted of Goldust, Mark Marrow, Steve Blackman, and Vader. Now, Blackman, this was his debut that night. Because originally, the Patriot was supposed to be in this match, but something happened and he was no longer there. The British Bulldog ended up being the sole survivor in that match. And then the final Survivor Series match was Ahmed Johnson, Ken Shamrock, and the Legion of Doom. And that's a pretty good team on paper, I'm not going to lie. Against the Nation of Domination of D'Lo Brown, Farouk, Kama Mustafa, and some young kid named Rocky Maivia. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. You ever heard of Rocky Maivia?
Never heard of him.
Who's that guy?
I don't know. Ken Shamrock ended up being the sole survivor in that one, and that actually ended up being the longest match of the entire show. It was 20 minutes, 28 seconds. Now, there were other matches. There were non-Survivor Series matches that took place. And the first one I want to talk about, and this one it's still interesting to this day. Mankind versus Kane.
That's an interesting one.
That
one could have been a main event at a certain point in history.
Mankind and Kane?
Mm-hmm. This was Kane's debut match.
Wow.
Now,
I like this.
You know what made that match really interesting was the fact the entire match, it was a red light. Now, Ruben, you saw this last night.
Yeah.
What did you think about the whole red light, factor into that?
That threw me off a bit, but I thought, yeah, it goes. That it makes sense to give that ambiance of the character Kane, because he was just new to the scene, so you have to give him some kind of a advantage, even if it is just a mental one, and having it in that red color just made the match for me.
Yeah. There was one spot I remember where Kane.
Can I say I'm just kind of glad that they didn't keep to that trope of Kane for his whole career.
Oh God,
that
yes.
Annoying after a while. If every match of his was all in red the whole entire time.
Oh my God, yeah.
I would have hated that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Now, the one spot I remember the most from that match was Kane chokeslammed Mankind, from the apron. Mankind's on the apron, Kane's in the ring, and he sort of just, I don't know, it's sort of like a shove chokeslam, and Mankind goes through the table, and Jim Ross is like, oh my God, he might be dead. Yeah, wait till about 7 months later with Hell in a Cell.
Oh my God!
They got him already!
That killed him!
But Kane, excuse me, Kane did win that match with a tombstone piledriver. The second match was Stone Cold Steve Austin challenging Owen Hart for the Intercontinental title. This was Austin's first match back since he took the tombstone in an awkward way back at SummerSlam that year. And all I remember was this was a very short match.
4.5 minutes or so?
4.5 minutes.
Does it make you think maybe Stone Cold wasn't healthy enough to do a full match yet? Maybe they were just kind of fitting him in just to get him started.
Probably.
That's what I was thinking.
It's kind of like I went to a WWE house show a couple of weeks before me, but Seth was there. Not backstage, but he was because he just got back.
Right.
Yeah, getting his knee.
And Stone Cold did win, and he would become the Intercontinental Champion. And it would last, I think, about a month before he just surrendered the title. He was like, you know what? I don't want this title anymore. Here, you can have it. So then that's the end of the show. That's it.
Yeah.
No,
nothing else important happened.
No, nothing else happened.
Montreal boos WWE whenever they come to town because of no reason whatsoever.
Well, then we have the main event. The WWF Championship match. Now, for you younger listeners out there, and Mike, you can help me set up the scene here. The internet was still somewhat new at this time in 97. Or actually, yeah, Mike and Ted, or actually all you guys, you can chip in on this.
Yeah.
The
internet is still very relatively new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you were a big wrestling fan then, you just got that magazine that would come out and stuff, and you would read that. That was like your version of the internet back then.
Right,
So
pretty
you
much.
get all the gossip and stuff.
Pretty much. So that's really the only way we would know what was going on. So they do a video piece. Well, actually, they did a very good intro in the beginning, and I forgot to mention that, setting up this main event. So after they show the video package, we see Shawn Michaels going out first. And this is actually... this isn't the first time. I caught myself. But this was one of the rare times, and I miss wrestling doing this today. I think they should bring this back for big-time situations. Where you see the guy walking in the locker room, making his way towards the entrance just before he comes out. I miss that so much. So,
I think the big reason why they don't do that anymore is because they overdid it with Goldberg so many times.
You might have a point, but
they should have done like one like jokingly where he's coming out of the bathroom.
Shit. But what made this so unique was how big this match was. And the fact, it was so serious. They had, the music that they play when something gets lowered. It was like, boom, 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 boom. That's how serious. That's how big it was. So Shawn Michaels comes out first. A young Triple H is there, along with Rick Rude and Chyna. And Shawn Michaels comes out to the ring first. He is the challenger. At one point, somebody throws a Canadian flag into the ring, and Shawn Michaels takes it and he wipes his crotch area with the Canadian flag in a sign of disrespect. I mean, it was huge disrespect.
Yeah. And I will say, it did the whole nose thing too.
Oh, yes.
Once upon a time, he stuck it in his nose. Kicking his nose with the flag and all. I could imagine if I was Canadian at that point. That right there, would really have pissed me off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point in doing any of that stuff unless you're all going all out hill at that point.
If I were Canadian, that would seriously be over the bar with me.
Yeah, I just had to shake my head on that. Like, I'm going, like, no. I'm like, even 20 years later, I'm like shaking my head, like, no, that's wrong.
Now, you see, if it happened in another country, he probably would have been arrested.
Yeah.
That's true.
Not all countries. Some countries.
But I mean, that's basically like for the longest time, like Iron Sheik and all those guys would do to the American flag, basically.
Yes.
Just do disgraceful stuff with it and all. And it was kind of weird to have it flipped around that time when it was the Americans against the Canadians.
Yes.
And the Americans were all of a sudden doing that to the Canadian flag.
Absolutely.
That was a bizarre time.
It really was. So then Bret Hart comes out. And British Bulldog is with him. Jim Neidhart is with him. And I want to say it's one of Bret's kids carrying the Canadian flag. I'm not sure. I know.
Yep. It was his youngest boy, I guess.
I think isn't it Dallas? I think it's Dallas Hart.
No.
He named his kids weird. He really did. The whole Hart,
Jimmy Hart.
the whole Hart family. Like, okay, what are? Hold on, I'm gonna look this up real quick, folks.
Well, the funny thing is too is that was the kid that when you see the some of the other stuff we'll probably talk about later. That's the kid you see Shawn Michaels pretend wrestling with during some of the other videos.
Yeah.
Like, the movies and stuff about it. You see backstage stuff when they're prepping and all, and Shawn Michaels is goofing off with that kid and all. Can you imagine being that kid and being somewhat friendly with Shawn Michaels, and then seeing that all take place live in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
That couldn't have been good for him as a child.
Okay, I have the names. They are Jade Michelle, Dallas Jeffrey, Alexandra Sabina, nicknamed Beans, and Blade Colton. So
it was Blade.
Yeah, it was Blade.
Because it was the youngest.
Yeah.
So that's who it was. So Brett comes out, and he comes out to a huge ovation. I mean, it was and they probably made that reference. Oh my, it's as if the Canadians have won the Stanley Cup. They're winning 25 years. They still haven't won one.
Ha ha.
Okay, so anyway, they get to the ring and they start fighting. The match does not officially start. They're just fighting. And all the officials are out at ringside. Vince is there. Gerald Briscoe's there. Pat Patterson's there. Some of the referees are there. Some of the agents are there. And this...
I'm not there for some stupid reason.
Who?
Toys the Clown.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And there's just this whole big fight, and they're just letting them go at it, and they're trying to, make sure that, it doesn't get too out of control. So we finally get into the ring, and they have a match. They have a match, and then we get towards the end, where Shawn and Brett, they sort of collide and knock each other down. And the referee, who's Earl Hebner, he sort of falls down.
So Brett's on the top rope, right? And he's jumping on the Shawn.
Yes.
Shawn pulls the ref over, and Brett and the ref collide.
Yes,
first.
That's right.
And that's how it all plays out, yeah.
Yeah. So, after that, Shawn gets up, and he starts getting the sharpshooter put on. And this is a big surprise because it's Bret's move. It's Bret Hart's move. No one ever does it. So Shawn locks it in. He turns it around. And here's the referee. He's asking him. And he calls for the bell. And the referee gets the hell out of the ring. And it's over. It's over.
I will have to say this. First, it was funny that when Shawn's trying to put it on, if you watch it closely enough, you can see him putting it on incorrectly.
Oh, it's bad.
You can actually see Brett kind of say to him, give him a hint that you're not putting it on right.
Oh, yeah, it's...
And then he readjusts it, and then he turns him over. And the ref actually doesn't really ask him, how many...
Right.
You may sound like he asked him more than once, but it was like a one-time, like, do you surrender? And he's like, ring the bell!
Yep.
It was a quick, like, it was done.
Yep. And then there is this whole...
In, 5 minutes or so?
The match?
Yeah.
I have the official time. It was 12 minutes, 19 seconds.
Yeah.
The outside stuff was about as long as the actual match itself on the inside.
Oh, God, yeah.
It was equal time outside getting their asses whooped, and then inside
I don't complain about that.
Match.
Oh, God, yeah. What were you saying, Ruben?
I didn't complain about how long the outside action, blasted. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
right.
I was fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, now today, looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, just let these guys go. Let them kill each other, basically. So there is complete confusion. Sean is sitting. Brett gets up. He looks at Vince, and Brett spits in Vince's face. Sean is pissed. He gets out. He grabs the title. Triple H comes out to sort of escort him out. And as he's leaving, he's sort of jumping in joy that he won the title. And that's, on pay-per-view, that's how it ends. So, Mike, I want to ask you, because you are, of the panel, the only other person who saw this event live when it happened. 2 questions. First off, did you ever see this coming? And number 2, what was your initial reaction when you saw it happen?
Well, so I'll set it up this way.
Okay.
I didn't know any of the information about WCW or any of that back when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I learned about all that stuff after the fact. So honestly, I didn't see this happening. When I watched it with a friend of mine named David.
Mm-hmm.
He came over to my house. We rented a pay-per-view. He was a Shawn Michaels fan. I was a Bret Hart fan. We were basically, put like a lunch money bet on who would win.
Mm-hmm.
I took Bret. He took Shawn. And at the time, like kids do back then, we were around the age 15, 14.
Yeah.
And we were goofing around and we're having our own little match, hitting each other's with,
the
pillows and stuff,
yeah.
all the outside stuff's going on, pretending to be each other. So really what happened for me was that match and the end happened so fast, but the two of us were like, what just happened? Because we almost missed it. It was so quick, but you didn't, as a fan,
mm-hmm.
you didn't know what was going on. You were like awestruck about could this really been how it ends?
Yeah.
I mean, because it didn't even seem. And I literally looked at him. He goes, "Oh, he won." I said, Brett didn't tap out.
Right.
He didn't say I quit. I was like, how could he win? What are you talking about? He said, no, they run the bell. The game with the belt. The music's playing. It's over. I was like, but no. I was like, he's supposed to tap. If he doesn't tap, it shouldn't count.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I felt about it. That was my. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then when it actually did happen, I almost didn't believe it. I was like, there has to be a mistake here.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask. Okay, now I'm going to ask Ted. You're going to go first, and then Ruben, because now you both did not see it happen live that night when it happened. When did you first? Do you remember when you first heard about it? And then when did you first see it happen?
I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to being a wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Bill.
Yes.
So maybe November of 2002 is when I started hearing about it. Because
okay.
They started talking about the Montreal Screwjob every time the Survivor Series kind of rolls up along. So November 2002 maybe is when I first heard about it.
Okay.
And also, they didn't really talk about it a whole lot because at the time, Sean was in a sabbatical.
Right. All right. Ruben, same questions for you.
That's probably the next night on Raw.
Okay.
Because I've been a long time wrestling fan. I've always watched Raw, SmackDown, and all that stuff. So yeah, I didn't watch the pay-per-view, but I knew to watch Raw just to hear what happened, and then I was just like, wow! I just could not believe it. To actually see the match itself and God, I don't remember the exact point, but it was years later.
Okay.
And then, but as far as the whole pay-per-view itself, it wasn't just until like last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. but I'll say this, like, going into that match itself, you know, even though we're years removed from it, it gave me a sense of something bad is about to happen. And even though I know we already know how it ended, it just gave me that bad feeling in my stomach. Like, oh, and it did that again last night when I watched it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the same feeling never left.
Exactly.
Wow.
But I'm hoping for a different result, but even though we know how it ended, and it still ended the same way.
I'll also say this about my experience with it. The only other time I've ever felt like that way while watching a pay-per-view was Owen's death.
Oh.
That one, when they just cut off the pay-per-view, like kind of like how they cut off the pay-per-view at the end of this match. Like when they cut off the pay-per-view, then both of those I was like, wow, is this real life? Is this actually seriously not scripted stuff? This is real. So something horrible just happened in real life that, you know, is totally legitimately 100%. Seemed like 100% true at the time. You know.
Now, I just want to say before I give my piece, I am with Ruben as far as, you know, if you missed the pay-per-view, catching it on Raw, like the result, was the way to go. Because, like I said, not everybody had the internet at the time. So if you missed the Survivor Series, you waited all day the next day to find out what happened. So I'm on that boat. I've been on that boat. As far as the match goes,
are they cheapskates about it? Like there used to be, where they just show like clips, or did they show actual footage?
it was clips.
Yeah.
It was
And
clips.
then like Shawn Michaels did like some little like, you know, talking thing about it the next night, right, on Monday night.
Yeah, I think he did. Okay, so sometimes, if I was watching a pay-per-view, one of my parents would come to hang out to watch it with me. Just to hang out, you know. So my mom was the one who hung out with me because I think my dad was working overtime that night. So I'm watching the match, and then we get to the ending, and like Mike said, it was so quick. You couldn't have a reaction right away. It's just, what happened? What exactly happened? And I think that's the only time in my life as a fan watching wrestling that when the show was over, I was left confused because of what just happened. And, like, it was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was...
Was it anything like the confusion you had with the Chris Benoit and Orlando Jordan match that lasted like 35 seconds?
Oh, that's a completely different... That's a big difference right there, Dad.
I remember being at SummerSlam and standing up for like the beginning of the match because we were on the floor, and then going to sit down and hearing people starting to scream so loudly. I stood up so quickly, and I stood up just enough time to see OJ tap. And like, what just happened? Because originally it was supposed to be a fatal four-way match with those two, Booker T and Christian, but they were like, we ran out of time. No kidding, you ran out of time. It was 35 seconds. I would think the most hilarious thing would be keeping a fatal four-way match and having it last 35 seconds. How could you do that?
The world may never know. So yeah.
Like, Booker T stuck in a spinneroonie, Christian, like, waving to his peeps and stuff like that.
Oh, that match went quick.
Shucky ducky, quack quack.
Okay, so now let's get into the aftermath. What happened after the cameras went off the air? And this is where it starts to get interesting. After the pay-per-view went off the air, they kept the videotape rolling. So Bret is still in the ring. There are fans confused, and they're angry because Bret's their hero. He's the Canadian icon. So he makes in the air the letters WCW, because like Mike said, we didn't know back then he was going to WCW. So Bulldog.
Yeah, I knew he was going to WCW because I was reading in the books.
Right.
He was going to WCW.
Yeah, Vince leaked it like a couple weeks before the match. Vince leaked it to the presses that he was going to WCW.
Oh, wow.
So that was all part of Vince's little plan there.
So Bulldog is out there, Neidhart's out there, to try and calm Bret down. Bret's giving hugs to the fans, and then he starts destroying company property. He takes one of the monitors, slams it. He's mad, as he should be. He was screwed.
I would do it too.
So
I would say about the WCW thing too. One of the reasons why he put the WCW sign up there was he was hoping they were still going live, and he went, as he said in his own documentary, he wanted as many people to know that it was all about the WCW thing as possible. So,
okay,
that was one of the reasons why he was doing the whole hand motion.
I am glad you brought up the documentary, because this sort of goes into everything as well. Because at this time, they're filming the documentary that would end up becoming Wrestling with Shadows, the Bret Hart story. So Bret is walking in the locker room, and eventually he finds Shawn Michaels, and they're getting undressed. And on camera, Bret asks Shawn, "Did you know this was going to happen?" And Shawn is like, "I swear I didn't know this was going to happen. I swear to God I didn't know it was going to happen." So keep that in mind for a little bit later. During all of this, Vince McMahon goes into Bret's locker room to have a discussion. And Vince tells Bret, "I'm going to let you take a shot at me. Just come right ahead, take a shot at me." The legend goes that when Bret took the punch to Vince, Vince tripped over one of his employees. I think it was Gerald Briscoe. And that's how he ended up having the black eye for a little bit. And then, to make things even more interesting for those who have not seen the documentary, Bret Hart's wife is having a conversation with Triple H, and she's going, and you might want to plug your son's ears here for this, Mike.
Yep.
She starts to go batshit crazy, because she's like, "I know you were behind this." And Hunter's like, "No, we weren't. No, don't give me that shit. I know you were behind this. You are such full pieces of shit. I knew you were behind this." And
it sounds like Bret Hart married Joe Pesci.
It could have been Joe Pesci. So
Bret Hart is married to Joe Pesci.
In all seriousness, she might have had a point there, because where Triple H goes later in the career, he basically fills the spot that Bret says Vince offered him when Vince offered him that long contract. Because remember, Vince offered him that super
it was like
contract and said,
20
I want
year...
you to be like my partner on the wrestling side and my best buddy, and you're going to help run the stuff. And then who ends up doing that 10, 20 years later?
Yep.
It's Triple H.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
The fact that it's Triple H, for the most part, is because of his wedding, his marriage to Vince's daughter. But at the same time, you have a point there. He was kind of groomed to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shawn and Triple H all basically said, they would call up Vince and go over plans with him about stuff weeks in advance, setting up storylines and stuff. So they were definitely getting their foot in the door for how they want to control stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next night on Nitro, on WCW Nitro, we begin the show with the NWO coming out with Canadian flags, waving the flags, singing "Oh Canada," congratulating Bret for what he did, which was sort of funny now that you think about it. So that was all in that week. The next week is where it gets even more interesting, because the next Monday is that infamous night where Rick Rude was on both Raw and Nitro. Raw was taped that week. Nitro, as everyone knows, was live pretty much every single week. So Rude left WWF right after that to jump ship to WCW. Meanwhile, as this is going on, WWF almost lost another individual in Mick Foley, Mankind. Mick was going to quit that night for what Vince had done to Bret. Bret...
And wasn't there like a whole strike that was going to happen? And Bret was basically had to go in there and say, hey guys, don't strike over me, you might lose your jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like his brother-in-laws, and Mick, who were the only ones who actually did strike for Monday night.
Mm-hmm. So, because of Bret's, word saying, don't do this, Mick ends up staying in WWF, and he ends up having quite a good career after that. So, then we get the next week the face-to-face interview with Jim Ross and Vince McMahon, where they go into the conversation. Now, as Mike mentioned, Bret was offered, and at that time last year, signed what was the largest contract in the history of the WWE. It was a 20-year contract. 20 years! Think about that, folks. And he would be paid $3 million. He would only be on the road like 150 days a year. And originally, Bret signed the contract. He was going to be with them for the next 20 years. However, financial situations came in the way.
Hold on. Financial situation.
Right.
Can we do an air quote on there?
Okay, we can do that.
Do a verbal air quote. Financial situations.
Okay. So then Vince asks Bret, can you take a pay cut? And Bret's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You offered me, this huge contract, and I'm not going to take a pay cut. And if you do that, I'm just going to leave. So in the interview, Vince, tries to say that he was trying to act professional. Bret didn't. And in the end, Bret made a selfish decision. Those were his words, Vince's words. And he said at the end of the interview that Bret truly isn't the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And then the infamous line, Bret screwed Bret. And that is where the Mr. McMahon character, people have pinpointed that night in Montreal, the beginning of the Mr. McMahon character was that night. So, after that...
And can I also say that Brett's version of it was more of that, when he was originally off a WCW contract, he went to them and said, hey, WCW's offered me this ton of money. I want to work for WWF at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys match or whatever? Vince, who's rightfully was cornered then, they needed Brett then, they needed him, came back and said, well, how about we offer you less money but a longer contract?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you were going to, you know, basically work everything around to making you one of the powers that be later in the contract.
Right.
So he signs that contract's going, you know, Vince all of a sudden comes up with the financial issues, using air quotes again, and then he comes back to Brett and says, sorry, we're done with the contract, too bad. And Brett says, what do you mean you're done with the contract? This is Brett's version of it. And he basically goes to Vince and says, you know, can't we work something out? I mean, it's not about the money. I want to stay with WWF. Can't we work something out? You know, blah, blah, blah. We should work something out. And basically Vince tells him not to follow his heart, but to follow his head.
Right.
Which is like, basically tell you, nope, don't want you no longer. We've got other plans. Go ahead and try to talk to WCW again. So he goes, he talks to WCW. They offer him basically almost the same amount, or if not more money, and he decides to take it this time.
Yep.
You can't really blame Brett for that.
Oh, no.
You cannot blame Brett for that.
No, not at all. So then we go to Starrcade, 1997, because this is a part of the story. That is Brett's WCW pay-per-view debut. And what does WCW do? They have him be the guest referee for a match between Eric Bischoff and Larry Zbyszko. Yep.
Definitely not using his talents wisely.
No. No. But that would not be the last we would see Brett on that night. Because that was the match before the main event. The main event was Sting versus Hulk Hogan. And I ordered that pay-per-view. Because, you know, they built that to being like the biggest match of all time. So, WCW having Hogan and Sting have their match at the MCI Center, by the way. Chick. Hogan goes for the leg drop. The referee does a regular 3 count. But Brett comes out, stops the ring announcer from ringing the bell, and says, I am not letting this match end this way. So, the referee comes out, Brett punches the referee, restarts the match, Sting puts the Scorpion Deathlock on Hogan, and Sting wins the title. Basically, 1 month after Montreal, WCW tries for the exact same finish. And it works terribly.
Oh, I was pissed that night.
Now, the referee for that match, Nick Patrick, admitted later on that he made a mistake because he was supposed to fast count Sting instead of the slow, regular 1, 2, 3. So he admits that he messed up. So
basically, the descriptive way it was supposed to go is supposed to make it look more like a rigged job, and he actually messes it up, made it look legit.
Yes, basically.
And then Brett comes in, and it's like, I can't let this end this way.
Pretty much. So after that, this is where WWF starts to gain control in the Monday Night War, which we were all veterans of. So we could celebrate Veterans Day because we were veterans of the Monday Night War. And I say that jokingly to all of our troops. I do. I I mean, no disrespect to our troops. That was a joke. Bret's career at this point is not the same because WCW does not really use him to his true potential. And all he's ever in is fighting for the U.S. title, and he's in the NWO because, well, you know, everybody's in the NWO, and, you know, he's not the world champion until 2 years after what happened in Montreal, which is shocking. Meanwhile, Mr. McMahon has this legendary feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they make a buttload of money, and they go to the races. So then, after that, you know, in 99, Owen tragically passed away, and then Bret had a match at Starrcade with Goldberg, where he ends up getting a concussion, and that concussion pretty much ends Bret's career. So in 2000, Bret retires because of the concussion. Meanwhile, we fast forward to 2002, and we go to a little program that some of us diehard fans might remember that WWE used to have called Confidential. For anybody?
Yes!
All right, we remember that.
Yes, sir.
Confidential.
I stayed up at 11 p.m. on Saturday nights to watch that. That was actually a pretty good show. I like that.
And after Velocity.
Yeah, after Velocity. You're right.
Yeah, it was the last thing me and Gene Ortland did.
Yep. So, one of the first episodes of Confidential is the Montreal Screwjob. And they interview Shawn Michaels. And it is in that interview, in 2002, 5 years after the incident, that he admits that he knew the screw job was going to happen. So now we go a long time before 2010. Because in 2000, or actually, no, we go to 2006, pardon me. Because in 2006, Bret Hart gets inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. It's a nice ceremony. He does a good speech. And the next night, he is not at WrestleMania to be a part of the quick Hall of Fame ceremony party thing where they introduce everyone who got inducted again. Then we go to 2010, where Bret Hart is a guest commissioner on Monday Night Raw. This is the first Raw of 2010. And he...
Was that between, like, two comedians?
I don't remember. I'll have to look later.
Probably.
That's just a joke because, like, at first when they did that, when they had the guest commissioner saying it was...
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Like, yeah, it's time, but then they started running out of people to ask.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to remember. Was that the week? Oh, my God. Who?
Guest commissioner.
And here's your host for the Slammies, Dennis Miller. Yes, Dennis.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Dennis Miller.
I remember that year.
Dennis Miller was on Monday Night Raw, folks. Okay, hold on. I can tell you real quick. Who was the guest the week before? Hold on. Timbaland. Timbaland was the guest
Timberland.
the week before. Yeah, the week before Bret comes back. And then, for those who are curious, the guest host the week after Bret is Mike Tyson. No, it's not that bad.
Not that bad.
I mean, it's
a WWE connections prior to this.
It's a step up from, Timbaland. But anyway.
Yes.
So Bret calls Shawn Michaels out. So this is going to be the first time in a long time that Bret and Shawn are in the ring at the same
I
time.
remember this.
Yep. And it is there on that night that they finally called a truce. They shook hands, they hugged each other, and it was over. And then, unfortunately for Bret, that would go into a bad angle with Vince that would lead to one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history with Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon, with the entire Hart clan outside the ring. And Bret could not be punched in the head, so what else are you going to do? Beat the shit out of Vince for 10 minutes and beat him.
Yeah.
So, now you would think, okay, that's it. We're done. It's the end. We're done. But new stuff starts to come out because Bret puts out an autobiography, which, for those of you who have never read that book, it is worth reading. I'd put it in my top 5 of greatest wrestling autobiographies of all time. It's a long, long read, but it's definitely worth it. So, in the autobiography, Bret talks about how he and Vince had come up with different scenarios for how that match was going to end and how he was going to drop the title. One idea was Shawn's going to win by DQ and Bret will just drop the title the next night on Raw. He will just vacate the belt. Another idea was for Bret to stay champion and to go to the next pay-per-view, which was an In Your House, and drop the title in a 4-way match. And they just could not come to an agreement of the ending of the match. And then, about 4 years ago, and this is something that doesn't get talked about that much, a wrestling, sort of a documentary, comes out by Joe Dombrowski, who is a famous commentator for independent wrestling. And he gets people over, and they talk about this theory. And I want to know your guys' opinion on this.
All right.
Bret was in on the Screwjob all along. Could you guys see in any way
Wouldn't see that.
Bret Hart being in on this?
I couldn't see that.
I've heard that rumor too, and a lot of that's online. You know, the
is.
whole thing was a work. Both Bret came off, looking good, and he made all his money. He went to make a WCW. Vince, got the whole WWF Monday Night thing going. He got his character going. He came off looking good. But my problem with that theory is Bret was never a great actor when it came to stuff. He had to believe in his character.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, when he was even a bad guy, his bad guy thing was, why is all the fans liking all these a-holes? I'm a family guy from Canada. You guys hate me because I'm from Canada now all of a sudden. Because he literally had to have a piece of it that was true. But he didn't want to go full hill. He just wanted to be totally a bad guy for no reason. He really believed in the his version of the Hitman character.
Right.
And therefore his acting skills, he couldn't pull off something like Shawn Michaels. I think Shawn Michaels was totally in on it from the get-go. And if you watched any of that, his acting surprised about the results.
Yeah.
It really looked like he looked surprised. At the time, I didn't think he was into it. At the time, I was like, well, he's definitely not into it. He looks shocked. Bret did not have that kind of skill. If it wasn't something that was real to Bret in his heart, he couldn't make it sell. basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's why I couldn't believe Brett would have known about the whole thing. And obviously, he knew about, all the WCW stuff. He knew about the supposed financial issues. He knew, he was basically trying to set up his own way out. He had written in his contract, the last 30 days, I have control of how my character goes out. Why write that in there and still want the hitman character to be seen as a somewhat good guy if you're just going to, kind of do this scene that you do, And it's 20 years of no one letting this leak, no one, providing information, That's a hard thing to do in today's world.
Yeah. Ruben, do you have anything you want to add in on that?
Yeah. For a second, I probably would have believed Brett, that Brett could be, but no, I don't think he knew anything or was in on it. No, I don't see that. I do not.
To that point too, I mean, for him to hold a grudge that long, some of it had to be real, for him to hold a grudge that long, and then it caused a lot of problems with his wife and stuff. Yeah, and his family issues after the fact. So I can't believe that he would let. As much as he was a team player for the WWF, I don't think he would let that actually destroy his marriage and cause all the problems that he had after the fact.
The only way that I think that, and this is just a thought, the only way I think Brett would have known this was going to happen is if Brett or if Vince went to Brett and was like, look, if you do this, I will give you so much money to lie for the rest of your life that you never knew of this. I will pay you royally for this. But I don't think it, I don't think he knew it. I really don't.
Yeah, there's no proof of that either. I mean, there's a lot of, is it possible? Yes, it's possible Brett could have known. But is it probable that this happened? Because you got to think of it that way. You got to think of it as a internet conspiracy theory. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible it could have happened. But for it to happen that way where Brett was part of it is very highly doubtful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually have right here on Wikipedia talking about, Brett and the Screwjob thing. Well, I want to read this, and I want your guys' thoughts on this. And this is, if you go onto Wikipedia, you type in Montreal Screwjob, it's there. It is near the bottom called Doubts Over the Screwjob's Legitimacy. Many wrestling fans and several within the business believe the Montreal Screwjob was a work and that Hart was acting in collaboration with McMahon. Longtime journalist Bill Apter, along with veterans Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Bam Bam Bigelow, Road Dogg, George Steele, Chris Kanyon, Steve Corino, Tony Mamaluke, Justin Credible, Paul Bearer, and Sonny have gone on record saying they believe this to have been the case. Shawn Michaels recalled people saying that the Screwjob had to be a work and claimed McMahon, quote, took a dive and sold like he sells on TV when struck by Hart backstage following the incident. Jerry Lawler, who served as ringside commentator for the match, found it plausible that Hart was working with McMahon, as did Hart's former colleagues, Demolition, Road Warrior Animal, Steve Blackman, and Sean Waltman. Waltman felt there was a, quote, high possibility of the screw job being a work and believed Hart would not have told anyone, including his wife, about his involvement. Well, I wouldn't tell my wife either if she sounded like Joe Pesci, but, you know.
And right there, though, that if it is a work, that's the best sold work of the history of wrestling.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Because you gotta imagine, he had to lie to his wife to get that shot of his wife, talking to Triple H, in the documentary.
You guys are so full of shit.
So imagine having to lie to your wife to sell a thing like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I just don't see Brett as that type of guy.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think he would. I don't think he would have lied. I really don't. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're now here 20 years later of this historic incident. It is still talked about to this day. Why do you guys feel that this is still talked about 20 years? Because there's a lot of things that can happen 20, 30, however long it was, and it could be forgotten. But when somebody mentions the Montreal Screwjob, it's quickly brought up, and people just have the... Why do you think it's still talked about 20 years later?
I think it's a big reason why the internet is so popular with wrestling now. I think the dirt sheets over the internet are so popular now because they want to know something about, like the Montreal Screwjob, that happens instantly. It's like this past Tuesday. Normally I don't watch SmackDown Live.
Right.
Normally I watch This Is Us on Tuesday nights, and then I watch.
Great show, by the way. Great show. Good piece.
And then I watch SmackDown on Hulu the next day. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm hearing there's going to be a title change, and Ric Flair is going to have his 30 for 30 on
ESPN
the next day. The next thing on TV is 30 for 30 Ric Flair, which, do they normally do 30 for 30 at 10 p.m.?
No. Oh, no.
Yeah, so...
Because it was mature content.
This was a special thing for the wrestling fans, because they're like, you know what? Let's move this to 10 p.m. because SmackDown's on at 8.
And there's so much adult content in this one that I don't think we should have little Billy there.
That's true. I can't see it being on at 8. I really can't see it being on at 8 on ESPN.
All right. So you said so basically, Ted, your reason is because of the internet, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Ruben or Mike, you want to add on to this?
If it didn't happen, some things would have never happened, but then some things would have still happened, but just happened differently.
Mm-hmm.
WCW probably would have still gone out of business, even if Brett didn't jump ship or whatever. I think it still would have imploded onto itself. Some people's careers probably wouldn't have not have happened the way that it happened, or not happened at all.
Yeah.
I don't think he would be nearly as mighty as he was.
He might not have been married to Stephanie.
That's very possible. Yeah.
because this might have been the token Vince McMahon gave Triple H for playing along.
Wait a minute. Wait.
As I say that, I firmly believe that that all those titles, Triple H, all the World Heavyweight Championships, all the times Evolution was on the top of the bill, was probably because, or at least most of it, was probably because Triple H's part in the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Triple H actually had his pick of who he wanted to be in Evolution.
All right. Good.
And I agree with Tom on that. I mean, there's a lot that says that Triple H, because Triple H before a lot of this wasn't really too big of a name when he first came in.
Right.
He wasn't really liked and all when he was just Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He wasn't known as being one of the best technique wrestlers or one of the best actors and stuff. It was his behind the scenes. His behind the scenes workings and stuff like this, where he was helping make the plans, and helping arrange the screw job and all. That definitely probably locked him into being one of Vince McMahon's favorites.
Anything else you wanted to add, Ruben?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I think. Go ahead.
So my point of view on this is realism. The realism of that night was the whole thing. The background of it, if you watch the two documentaries, all the history and all, the realism is what made that a special match. I mean, you literally had the actual hatred between Bret and Shawn.
Yes.
There's stories of backstage fights way before this match where Bret's ripping out Shawn's hair. Shawn's basically calling Bret a cheater, said he's sleeping with Sonny.
Because he had sunny days.
Sunny days. So there's definitely a dislike there from what originally started as somewhat of a friendship that morphed into a dislike. So those matches are always the best ones, when you have two characters who actually dislike each other. And then you have the whole realism of the WCW thing happening behind the scenes that no one, for the most part, knew about back then. There was very little people knew about all the stuff happening then. And then the way they shot it, as you talked about when you first brought this up, they shot with them coming in with those long intros, where it was realistic handheld camera shooting coming in. The fight at the beginning was all this rough, hardcore fight, which at that time WWE didn't do. WWF and WWE now didn't do a lot of that hardcore fights, especially not for that long.
No.
So it was a very realistic fight, and then you had what appeared to be a very realistic ending, and that's what made it memorable for me at least. Like I said about Owen's death, when something actually happens, but it's realistic and real, it makes it so much more memorable for the audience.
For me, there's two reasons why I think this is still talked about 20 years later. The first one is it happened in Canada. I think if this happens anywhere in the United States, it is not nearly as remembered as it is today. Like, if it happened, say, in New Orleans, Louisiana, people would remember it, but it wouldn't be as big as it is. The other thing, or the other reason for me that I think this is still talked about 20 years later, is what would happen to Bret afterwards. Because I don't think Bret will ever admit to saying it, but I think that night is the night that everything went for the worse for Bret.
Yes.
Because after that, he has a terrible WCW run. His brother dies, his dad dies, his mother dies, he gets a divorce, he has a stroke, and he almost dies. it's just so many bad things happened to him. And I think it started that night. And like I said, I don't think Bret will ever admit to it, but for that 10-plus year time frame where it was almost like anything bad that could happen to Bret did happen to Bret. And I think it started right there that night in Montreal.
Yep. The only thing he ever got out of that whole the screw job was the money from WCW.
Yeah.
That was the only thing he ever got.
Pretty
Everything
much.
else was bad from there on.
I don't think he's ever been happy since. Honest to goodness. I don't think he's ever been happy since.
Well, I've never been so happy. I'm still bitter.
My hockey team doesn't really do that good.
At least I'm not married to Joe Pesci.
I got a problem with that.
You're so full of shit. Okay. I want to end this with one more question. And
You're Goldberg. You're a wet bandit.
we're the Sticky Bandits now. How do you spell sticky? No. Okay. In all seriousness, though, last question. In the intro for this segment of the show, I had said this is the most infamous, one of the most infamous moments in the history of wrestling. And we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of the first Survivor Series. My question to you guys is this the most important moment in the history of Survivor Series? Not the greatest, because there probably are other events that are greater moments than this. But is this the most important moment in Survivor Series history?
At least the top three.
Yeah. I would call this I would probably rank this on the top 5 of moments in WWE history in general.
All right.
And I would say it's a top moment because it was the final, there was a point in WWE where they were going away from the old style of, wrestler has his theme,
Mm-hmm.
and, it's good guy versus bad guy, and that's, wrestling. To there's gray and everything, and morality doesn't mean anything, and we're just going to entertain you, and Vince is going to be part of this, and he's going to play the overall bad guy, but everyone else is somewhere within gray areas, and they can get away with doing a lot more, and it became a lot more about entertainment than wrestling, and that was that jump that basically
Coco might have not been the kind of wrestler he was if it wasn't for the Montreal Screwjob.
Oh, exactly. There's that jump that made WWE now the winner of the whole thing. If they don't make that jump at that point, they might not have beaten WCW out.
Stone Cold, Edge,
Mick Rock.
The Rock might have not have had a movie career to go to. Maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, Stone Cold, Edge, and The Rock, all three of them are all legends, and they may not have had that much of a career if it wasn't for the Montreal Screwjob. So, when it comes to the trickle-down effect, this might have been the number one moment in WWE history.
Mm-hmm.
For multiple reasons. The trickle-down effect, and then you get the dirt sheet effect, where if I swear they cannot do another Montreal Screwjob because of the way the dirt sheets are set up online now. Like 1 second after something like that would have happened, people would have been booing in Singapore.
It's very true.
Oh.
That does bring an interesting question, because I wanted to ask you this, Bill, when you said you thought one of the main reasons why it was important was it was in Canada. If it happened in the USA, knowing that how the American people were treating Brett at the time, where I would say probably about 75% of them was against them just because of the Canadian thing.
Right.
Do you think if it happened, the screw job happened in America, that the audience would have reacted the same way in Canada?
Ooh.
Because I know I did. I acted like I was a Canadian that night. I was like, what is going on? I was totally pissed off that it happened. And so I imagine not all of them would have.
Right.
There would still have been a lot of people cheering for Sean. But there would have been a lot of, weird mixture of boos to cheers.
Yeah. I think if it happened here in the U.S., as far as the Canadian reaction, I don't think it would have been... I think it would have been big. It just would not have been as big as it was that night.
No.
It would have been like probably where most wrestling fans, or not most, but a lot of wrestling fans' behaviors are today, where it's like, oh, they did that. I'm never gonna watch the product again. And then like 2 weeks later, they're watching it, and it's like, oh my god, it's the greatest thing ever. So that's where I think it would have been.
That word.
Yes.
What you're saying is all the wrestling fans talk like Eric Carson.
Well, no, not all fans. Not all fans. I think there's a difference. There are the fans like us who give stuff a chance, and then there are those who are just so, if it doesn't go this way, they get angry. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I've chatted with people who do not watch wrestling anymore because of what happened 2 or 3 years ago, or some people being angry about how they used how women were wrestling 5 years ago, and I'm like, dude, that's different.
It's changed.
It's changed a whole lot now. Sometimes wrestlers in the WWE, women's wrestling is not as much of a shock to have on the main event on an episode of Raw. When I started watching in 2002, it might have been a shock that if Lita and Trish had a match at main event without having Matt Hardy and Edge, or Matt Hardy and Christian in the match, because that would balance it out.
Yeah.
But now I would have no problem having a Bayley and Bliss main event at maybe even WrestleMania.
Which is a possibility. It could happen someday.
Yeah,
I hope it happens.
I hope they don't toss it away like some people are saying. Well, Ronda Rousey's going to be in the WWE at some point. I hope her debut is not the main event at WrestleMania. I seriously hope that's not how they do it. But I would see I could see a Bayley Bliss WrestleMania, or at least a SummerSlam main event.
All right, I'm going to say this, because, I want to answer the question as well. I think it is easily, or it's guaranteed to be in the top 5 Survivor Series, as far as the influence and the impact.
I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You did.
And then you might want to talk about women for a while, but that's all right.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely
the female audience.
It's probably top 3. I think the other important. I can think of at least one other important moment in Survivor Series history that could match up to that, and that would be for what would become after it, the debut of The Undertaker. That's probably, the only other one that, as far as the impact and what would become after it, would be the only other thing that could match how important of a moment that is. After that, you could go on and try to figure out, is it this moment or is it this moment? But to me, and it's like it's like you guys said, if this does not happen, we might be talking about how WCW won the Monday Night Wars. We could be talking about the WCW network today, for all we know. We could be getting ready right now for the biggest Starrcade of all time if WCW wins the Monday Night War. But because Vince was put in a position that he really had no other choice, and I'm not defending Vince. I mean, he did what he had to do. He makes one decision, and the rest is history. And like I said, it had bad ramifications for Bret Hart, both professionally and personally. And then it also had good ramifications as well. We listed like 4 or 5 guys whose careers, were able to have a chance. So, and I think in 30 years, when it's the 50th anniversary, we're still going to be talking about this.
Yes.
And I think a part of that comes down to this too, that Bret literally had to save the WWE years before that with the whole Hulk Hogan steroids scandal. So he's the savior there. And then when he gets screwed going out of the WWE, he ends up being the sacrificial savior at the end of it all. Mm-hmm. He's the reason why it continues and gets as popular as it does and beats the WCW in the long run.
Yeah.
Because they used him for what they needed him for, and they got out what they could. And it's a shame for Bret, but it worked out for WWE.
It did. It very well did.
In 30 years, we might be seeing one of Shane McMahon's kids running WWE, and a big reason for that is because of the Montreal Screwjob.
It could also be one of Stephanie's kids.
That's true.
Can I also say this? While I was rewatching it last night and watching some of the Shadow documentary one, the clip where they actually have Shane there. I was like, that's the first time we saw Shane in one of the matches.
He looked
back behind the scenes.
Young.
I was like, wow, that's Shane.
He looks young back then.
He was so young back then.
Oh my goodness.
But if there was one thing that really stood out for me when watching it last night was how crude the signs were that night.
Oh my God, yes! Oh, thank you!
No Photoshop back then.
Yeah, no Photoshop.
I want to watch this match now, hearing about how crude the signs were.
Oh my God, they were bad.
It was terrible that night.
You can find it on YouTube.
Maybe some of it's not worth repeating, but saying that Triple H is this or HBK is that and Vince is that, like oh, and maybe it's the older self in me that's being so shocked about, like, oh man, I got red.
Not very PC back then.
Oh my God, no. Yeah. Oh dear Lord, no.
Couldn't pull that off today, but
no. If you tried
back then, it was perfect.
Yeah, if you tried today...
But it was perfect, but uncomfortable, yeah.
Like, if you tried today, you'd be kicked out of that arena in, like, 3 minutes.
Vince wouldn't allow it.
That's how crude those sides were. Oh, my God. Alright, you know what? I'm going to give you guys each an opportunity to plug anything, social media, or anything that you're doing. So, whoever wants... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on real quick. I think I got a couple pictures here. Hold on. I'll try to see if I have one that's appropriate.
Some of the signs.
Yes!
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. There's Ass 316. Sean's ego, bigger than life. Sean is a god. Okay, there's one I definitely can't read.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read one more. Rick Rude would rather be in China.
Yeah.
Can I give a personal story about Rick Rude? So this go around to this thing too. For a while, he was a customer at a restaurant my mom used to waitress at in Hagerstown, but Carmine's. It's up in Hagerstown, and he would drop in there every now and then. I think he was doing something with the Hagerstown little wrestling thing they had up there once upon a time.
Right.
And she had asked him, because she was a big Shawn Michaels fan, and she had asked him a lot of times about other people and stuff, and other wrestlers and stuff. And she had told me she asked him once about Vince, and he said, everything that Vince portrayed earlier in his career is that's all the bullshit. He said he's so much closer to the actual real life Vince McMahon portrayal of the evil CEO than anyone realizes. So that's another reason why I could buy into Vince actually screwing over Bret.
Yeah.
All right. You can't buy into Vince screwing over Bret.
No, he couldn't buy into Vince being the nice guy. Remember
the nice portrait of the I'm just here and do these matches and call these matches.
Yeah.
I'm not really the owner, but I am the owner.
1, 2, 3, he got him. Oh no, he kicked out.
That was all apparently a show. He's a lot more closer to the asshole Vince McMahon than he is anything else. Supposedly.
Yeah. All right. Anybody want to plug anything before we go?
Follow me on Twitter at CapsHeart99.
All right.
Yeah. For me, it's follow me on Twitter at Ruben Vasquez Jr.
All right.
I'm not on Twitter, so don't follow me on Twitter. I'm not on there.
There you go.
But I have my own video production company, McPherson Productions. Ever need service, look at that. And I will also promote the documentaries. If you're interested in the subject, those documentaries are worth a good watch. They touch on a lot of subjects we haven't gotten into full depth here. The history, the background of it, the financials, about how they upped the ticket prices right before telling Bret that they were out of money. They upped them by like $10 per pay-per-view. They touch on why Bret going to WCW with the belt would have been a bad issue with the whole women's champ.
Yeah,
the whole
with Medusa.
Is that the documentary you're talking about?
Yeah, Wrestling with Shadows.
Then there was one Bret's book that came out too, and the video about that. But a couple good documentaries if you look into it. You can find on YouTube and stuff. Definitely, if you're interested in the subject, that's the way I would go, because that really years ago when Bret was pushing the book, I heard him on a podcast talking about it and going into a lot of this stuff I didn't know about. I mean, I obviously saw the Screwjob personally, but I didn't know all the behind the scenes stuff because, like Bill was saying earlier in the podcast, the internet wasn't around for that. So it was good to watch those videos and get the in-depth history of everything that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I already did my plugs earlier, so I'm not going to do them again. So if you missed all my plugs, it's your fault, not mine. On that note,
well, it's not. I can't help it. It's not your fault, Bill. It's all my fault. Bret Hart's fault.
I can't have good relationships with women. If you read my book, you read about how I had sex with a lot of women while I was married. And, no, but in all seriousness, thanks to Ruben, Mike, and Ted for joining me for this conversation on Montreal 20 years later. Thank you guys for listening to this. I hope you guys had as good insight as we did, and maybe you have memories of your own that, maybe you want to talk about on our Facebook group, That Wrestling Show. Just type it in, and there you go. Thanks for listening, and we will be back next week for another episode of That Wrestling Show.